The city that once belonged to a huge clan of the barbarian race was now filled and surrounded by demon chi since it was long ago occupied by the demon race. However, at this moment the huge city appeared to be quiet and silent. Not even a single person could be seen on the streets, as if it had become a dead city. Clouds of black mist floated from a distance at an extremely fast speed, and stopped in the sky above the city in the blink of an eye, revealing the figures of several demon kings. There were quite a few of them, as many as 5, and the leader among them did not have any flesh and blood but was just a dark and tall skeleton with 2 constantly flickering ghost fires in his eye sockets. Bone Demon Fei Li. We were too late. A demon king standing behind Fei Li swept his divine sense across the city as his complexion sank. The other demon kings did not look pleased either, except for Fei Li, who could not show any expressions without a physique. However, the ghost fire in his sockets danced even more animated as if reflecting the anger in his heart. This is the 19th place. Damn that foreign race bastard. The demon king who was speaking gritted his teeth as if he held deep grudges against someone. Another demon king stood forward and frowned. I remember that before that foreign race escaped from Senior Mo Duo, he once said, 300,000 of the South Barbarian clan were annihilated, and we demons would have to pay the same price. Is he really planning to kill 300,000 clansmen before he gives up? Where does he get the energy? That was 300,000 demons, not 300,000 insects. In fact, even 300,000 insects would take a lot of effort to kill. But facts showed that this foreign race had infiltrated deep into demon-occupied territory since the day he fled, and wherever he went, all demons stationed there would be wiped out, including demon kings. Within a month, just 1 month, that foreign race boy had already raided 19 places, turning the 19 demon race bases into ghost towns with no survivors. Mo Duo was infuriated about this and even personally went to track down the whereabouts of the foreign race. What frustrated the demon saint though was that this boy was extremely cunning and managed to avoid him every time, even managing to escape when they came within 100 kilometers of one another. He never confronted the demon saint and only targeted weaker subordinates. Moreover, the way he killed the demons was extremely strange. 99% of the demons who died had no obvious wounds, only a look of terror on each of their dead faces. It was as if they had encountered something that petrified them, and then they died of fear. That foreign race's savage harassment exhausted a large part of the demon's energy. In 1 month, more than 100,000 demons, including 5 demon kings, had died at his hands. Such a loss could not be regarded as a small one for the demon race, and although there were as many as 200 demon kings who participated in this invasion, even that number could not withstand such intense consumption. Most of the demon saints were recuperating from their injuries at this time, and although Mo Duo rushed here to provide reinforcements, for certain reasons he could not exert his full strength. The demon kings were the mainstay force of the demon race, the firm rock in the stream that was their war against the foreign race. It would be extremely detrimental to the future of the demons if too many of them were killed. The demons' front line shrank rapidly, and the demon kings no longer dared to act alone, instead gathering in groups of 3 to 5, partly to resist the attack of the foreign race army, and also to track the whereabouts of that foreign shaman grandmaster. Looking at the city below, Fei Li stated, I remember this is Ba Han's territory, but I can't detect his aura. Someone go take a look and find out what happened to him. I'll go and investigate. The demon king who spoke first hesitated for a moment before taking the initiative to volunteer, turning and descending into the largest building in the city. The remaining 4 demon kings released their divine sense in vigilance. Although they had not encountered that foreign race during this period of time, every place they went was a cemetery, and no one could guarantee that the foreign shaman grandmaster would not try to ambush them here. Every demon king was terrified of that foreign shaman grandmaster because he had the ability to kill demon kings. The surroundings were quiet, but the air was inexplicably cold. Except for Bone Demon Fei Li, the remaining 3 demon kings felt slightly nervous. Right at this moment, a wave of demon chi fluctuated and disappeared in a flash, followed by a building below suddenly collapsing into dust. The expressions of several demon kings changed as their divine senses surged over that area like a tide. However, they were baffled by their findings because there was nothing there, not even the companion who offered to investigate the situation, his aura vanishing entirely. Someone started calling the name of the Demon King, but there was no response. The hair-raising situation made them faintly realize that their companions had probably encountered tragedy. "He's here," Fei Li shouted in a low voice, his skull twisting left and right, the ghost fire in his eye sockets flashing wildly, as if he was searching for the enemy's trail. The remaining 3 Demon Kings, perceiving danger from the hidden enemy, each took out their demonic artifact, pushed their demon chi, and prepared for battle. The air seemed to have frozen, and the tense atmosphere sent every hair on the Demon King's bodies upright. They searched desperately, but still could not detect a trace of the foreign shaman, leaving them feeling helpless and frustrated. This was how it always was, with this strange enemy appearing and disappearing mysteriously, leaving them constantly on edge. But every Demon King knew that the enemy had not left, but was still hiding in the dark, ready to deliver a fatal blow to any Demon King who let their guard down. Many wished that Mo Couture was here. She was a master at concealment and assassination, and with her ability, she could definitely track down the foreign shaman grandmaster. "Behind!" Fei Li suddenly shouted, causing the 3 anxious Demon Kings to react instinctively. Fei Li already raised his hand, and a wildfire-like attack shot towards that direction. The other 3 Demon Kings also released their attacks together towards the empty space. They could not sense the aura of the foreign shaman grandmaster, but Fei Li was the strongest and most senior among them, so they all believed his judgment. All the attacks converged at one place, but did not produce the desired effect, and just when the 3 Demon Kings were still in befuddlement, a muffled grunt echoed. One of the Demon Kings looked down at his chest with wide eyes, and saw a skeleton hand passing through it, holding onto his 2 demon hearts. This skeleton hand was very familiar, and this Demon King simply could not believe what he was seeing. Fei Li! The other 2 Demon Kings were scared out of their wits by the sudden change. Unable to fathom why Fei Li, who had been fighting side by side with them, would suddenly move against his own people, their minds froze up for a moment. A ghostly figure appeared at that moment and rushed at them like lightning, sweeping past a Demon King and stopping 10 steps away. Pooh! There was a sound of blood gushing out, and the Demon King fixed his eyes on a figure about 7 meters tall covered in scales with short horns on his head. That could only be the foreign shaman grandmaster. However, at this moment, the foreign shaman grandmaster was holding half of a corpse in each of his hands. Blood and viscera spilled wildly from the Demon King that was completely torn apart by him. "Shaman Nyo!" The remaining Demon King shrieked, feeling his blood freeze in his veins. There were 5 of them originally. No one knew what happened to the one who went to investigate the empty city, but his end was likely disastrous. One was attacked and had his demon hearts taken out by Fei Li, condemning him to death in the near future, while another Demon King was torn apart by Shaman Nyo. Only one remained now. This survivor's expression changed rapidly at that thought, and eyes moving from Xianxia to Fei Li. He asked with heartache, "Why?" Fei Li had obviously betrayed the demon race. Otherwise he would not have attacked his companions, and even more misled and attracted others' attention to himself. If it weren't for him interfering, no matter how powerful this foreign shaman grandmaster was, the several Demon Kings would have the power to fight him. But now, it's just that he couldn't understand why Fei Li betrayed the demons. He was a Demon King and he was the best among those in the same realm. What could the human race possibly give him to make him throw away his dignity as a demon? "Since you have already guessed it, why do you need to ask?" Fei Li replied coldly. As soon as the skeleton hand exerted some force, the demon heart in the palm of his hand burst open, and the light in the eyes of the Demon King whose his chest had been punched through quickly dimmed and went out. Fei Li shook his hand, as if he had to clean off something dirty, and the Demon King's body plunged straight down. "You are a disgrace to the demon race." The eyes of the Demon King who was still alive blazed with unprecedented anger, as if to burn Fei Li. Between enemies and traitors, the latter has always been more abhorrent. The ghost fire in Fei Li's eyes jumped for a moment, and rushed towards him without saying a word. The 2 Demon Kings immediately started fighting each other, and when the demonic chi surged, they were inseparable. But Fei Li was much stronger than them. Judging by what Yang Kai could see, Fei Li was a high-rank demon king. Even among the high-rank demon kings, he may be ranked high, but his opponent was only a mid-rank demon king. The difference might just be a small realm, but this was a chasm that cannot be bridged. It's like the gap between a second-order emperor and a third-order emperor. This battle didn't last long. Under Yang Kai's cold eyes, Fei Li only spent a stick of incense before smashing the opponent's body, shattering his demon heart, and making it so he could not be resurrected. 5 demon kings came here together, and in the end, only Fei Li survived. Sir, in that huge battle, Fei Li did not show any signs of fatigue, and bowed his head to salute Yang Kai. Yang Kai lifted the dragon transformation secret technique and restored his original appearance. In order to kill him with one blow, he had to use it. After all, the demon kings were not that easy to kill. Glancing at him coldly, Yang Kai said, "Why did not tell me earlier about Mo Duo's arrival?" A month ago, if Yang Kai had got the news of Mo Duo a day or two earlier, then the southern barbarians might not have perished. At least they would not have suffered so many losses. But it was just 1 or 2 days of delay, and 300,000 of the southern barbarian tribe were lost. Facing Yang Kai's question, Fei Li answered bitterly, "None of us had thought that Mo Duo would come so suddenly. He began this deployment after his arrival, and I always had to follow him, so I did not have the opportunity to deliver any messages." Yang Kai was silent, which made Fei Li a little nervous. He wondered if Yang Kai would be mad with him because of the demise of his clan. Fortunately, after a while, Yang Kai asked another question, "How much strength can Mo Duo use now?" Fei Li let out a sigh of relief as he replied. He was wounded when passing through the passage of the world barrier. Right now, he should only be able to use 60 to 70% of his true strength, but if he is given enough time to heal, he will become stronger and eventually recover to his peak. 60 to 70%. Yang Kai mumbled. It seemed that his guess was right. Although Mo Duo was comparable to a great emperor, he could not exert his full strength at the moment. However, even a great emperor with 60 to 70% of their strength was by no means someone he could compete with. "Sir, I've been exposed. I'm afraid I can't go back now," Fei Li remarked. He left with 4 demon kings on this mission, and now he was the only one alive. If there was no demon saint, many of the demon kings would not have much of a say, for his strength was superior to theirs. But if he had to face Mo Duo when he went back, he would definitely be suspected. Yang nodded, obviously anticipating this. "I want you to take me to Fort Torrent." Fort Torrent. Fei Li was surprised, and immediately understood Yang Kai's plan. "Sir, do you really want to kill 300,000 demons? Did you think I was joking?" Yang Kai glanced at him faintly. Fei Li shivered and replied anxiously, "But there are more than 100,000 demons at Fort Torrent. Over the past month, close to 200,000 demons had died at Yang Kai's hands, and adding those demons in Fort Torrent, it would be almost 300,000. However, the largest base that was recently destroyed by Yang Kai was only garrisoned by 10,000 demons. Moreover, because of his hunting everywhere, the defensive line of the demons shrank more and more, and the scattered demons were all summoned to one place, which turned Fort Torrent into one of the biggest strongholds. As far as Fei Li knew, there were as many as 8 demon kings there, along with more than 100,000 clansmen. Why was Sir Shaman Yo so daring to target such a place? Yang Kai glanced at him. "I'm not alone." Fei Li was stunned but soon realized what Yang Kai meant. It seemed that it was time for the chess pieces placed by Sir Shaman Yo in the demon clan to shine. Fort Torrent was originally the capital of a huge barbarian clan, but it was destroyed by the invasion of the demon race, so the territory was occupied. Hundreds of thousands of demons gathered here, and their demon chi almost turned the entire place black. 8 demon kings were in charge here, with countless demon great generals and demon generals under their command, securing this place. Because they were still in the rear, the demons here had not fought with the foreign race for the time being. However, these bloodthirsty and aggressive demons yearned for a fight every day. They could not wait to slaughter those weak foreign races and capture this vast land. Fei Li's uninvited arrival surprised the 8 demon kings who were guarding here. However, with Fei Li's strength and reputation, even if everyone was surprised, they did not show much vigilance. Instead, they warmly welcomed him while subtly probing his purpose for coming here. Fei Li kept silent and maintained a mysterious look, which made everyone not dare ask more, wondering whether he was here on some mission for Senior Mo Duo. Strength Demon Yula was among the Demon Kings in Fort Torrent and was able to learn a lot of information through Fei Li's eye signal, which made him nervous. Soon, more Demon Kings arrived at Fort Torrent. Shadow Demon Mo Ku Tuo, Flame Demon Lai 1, Snow Demon Ashur Na. In just 3 days, including Fei Li, a total of 7 additional Demon Kings gathered here from all directions, which suddenly increased the number of Demon Kings in Fort Torrent to 15. This situation was extremely rare. After Mo Duo arrived, each Demon King had been given his or her own responsibilities and territory to protect, and they would not leave their duties easily. Nevertheless, the arrival of Fei Li and the others had broken this norm. Even the most foolish Demon King would know that something was up. Everyone continued to probe the newly arrived Demon Kings before finally coming to a conclusion. They were indeed sent here by Senior Mo Duo. However, no one knew the purpose of their coming here. Only Fei Li knew everything. Unfortunately, Fei Li had secluded himself in his room all this time, which made it impossible for them to approach him. This suspicion ended 5 days after Fei Li's arrival. In the largest building of Fort Torrent, a total of 15 Demon Kings assembled together. Fei Li sat at the head of the hall, despite being a guest, and the ghost fire in his eyes was as calm as a spring lake. The other 14 Demon Kings were sitting on either side of the table, and no one was making any noise. Every pair of eyes locked on Fei Li. Fei Li looked up suddenly and announced, "There are traitors among us." The hall suddenly fell silent, and only after a long time did one Demon King mutter, "Fei Li, are you kidding?" "Yes, how can there be traitors among us? What can the inferior foreign race use to bribe us Demon Kings?" "Fei Li, if this is a joke, it's not funny." Several Demon Kings could not help clamoring. Fei Li remarked, "This is Senior Mo Duo's judgment." The clamorous crowd instantly shut up and became serious, all of them starting to look around and examine their companions carefully. They could laugh it off and choose not to believe it if it was Fei Li who suspected there were traitors among them, but if it was Senior Mo Duo's judgment, it must be serious. Senior Mo Duo must have had enough evidence or even found out who the traitor was before he sent Fei Li here. In other words, there were indeed traitors among them. Who? Mo Ku Tuo, who was sitting on Fei Li's left, questioned with a neutral voice. She had wrapped herself in a black aura, and no one could see her true face. She asked the question in everyone's heart, and all of them turned to Fei Li together. As long as Fei Li spat out the name, that Demon King would be immediately lynched by the others. He knows himself very well. Fei Li put on a mysterious look. Didn't Senior Mo Duo give clear instructions? One of the Demon Kings frowned and asked. Fei Li got up and continued. Senior Mo Duo naturally has a solution. While speaking, he stretched out his hand, and a visible vortex formed in front of him. The vortex looked deep and dark, and even the Demon Kings could not pry any information about what was inside of it. "What is this?" Another Demon King questioned curiously, for it was his first time seeing such a strange sight. Fei Li answered, "This is something Senior Mo Duo gave me. There is a saint artifact inside that can illuminate one's true thoughts. Everyone will just need to stand in front of the saint artifact, and the traitors will be revealed." Everyone turned solemn and were awed by Senior Mo Duo's means. "Please enter," Fei Li invited faintly. The remaining 14 Demon Kings hesitated, exchanging looks with each other, none of them willing to take the lead. At this critical moment, Shadow Demon Mo Kutu snorted coldly and stepped into the vortex with her body wrapped in demon chi, vanishing from sight. Fei Li pressed on. Only those who are guilty would hesitate. The remaining Demon Kings immediately turned solemn at the impact of that remark. Furthermore, Mo Kutua had taken the lead, so no one dared to hesitate anymore. all of them walking into the vortex one after another. The demon kings disappeared one by one, and soon, all had entered the strange portal. Fei followed behind them and stepped into the vortex too. It was the same world as before, with no sun, moon, or stars, but with a picturesque environment. When they saw Fei enter, one of the demon kings immediately shouted, "Fei, where is the saint artifact that can reflect our hearts? Why don't I see it?" He desperately wanted to prove that he was not a traitor, so he got a little impatient and had absolutely no idea this was all a trap that was set up by their fellow demon kings. Fei did not answer him and instead turned to Mo Kutua and the other demon kings. "Sir instructed each of you to take one and prove yourselves." The demon kings who garrisoned in Fort Torrent were confused, but the rest of the demon kings like Mo Kutua, Lai One, and the others turned solemn. They clearly understood the meaning behind Fei's words. The next moment, Mo Kutua let out a peal of sinister laughter, turned into a black fog, and wrapped up a demon king nearest to her. A shrill scream rang out immediately, and everyone's face changed drastically. Before they could react, Flame Demon Lai Wen, Strength Demon Yula, Snow Demon Asher Na, and the others made their move, each looking for a demon king with a look of absolute hatred as they unleashed their lethal skills. Except for Fei, the 14 demon kings were divided into 7 groups, with 2 people fighting each other in each group. Demon Qi permeated the battlefield, and various innate divine abilities shone one after another. The demon kings of Fort Torrent could not react to such an unexpected incident, but they still fought hard when facing this crisis. However, none of them understood why it seemed like there was a power that suppressed and hindered them from unleashing their full potential. Under such circumstances, how could they match Mo Kutua and the rest who were as fierce as tigers? The demon kings collapsed one by one, their demon hearts crushed, all of them dying tragic deaths. Before the last demon king was about to die, a sudden realization dawned on him and he gasped in shock. "Are you all the traitors?" Lai Wen's whole body was scorching in flame, as if he could burn all things in existence. He surrounded the demon king with a raging fire and stated coldly, "It's too late to know now." Under the burning flames, the demon king only lasted for 3 breaths before he was burned to ashes, even his demon hearts melting under the intense heat. After each of them killed a demon king with their own hands, Mo Kutua and the rest knew that they had reached the point of no return. Previously, although they were branded by Yang soul imprint and were enslaved to him, they could still claim that their actions were all made under duress. Even if they were caught by Senior Mo Duo, they still had an excuse to explain themselves. If Senior Mo Duo was in a good mood, perhaps they could still be pardoned from punishment. But now that they had killed their own companions, they could no longer return to the demon race. From now on, they could only move forward in this path until they met their end. Yang Kai's figure suddenly appeared, as if he had been hiding nearby all the time. The 8 demon kings with Fei as their leader all turned solemn and bowed together. "Sir!" Yang Kai nodded, and instead of praising or greeting, he declared, "I want Fort Torrent to writhe in torment." After the words fell, he waved his hand, and the 8 demon kings were thrown out of the sealed world bead, returning them to the hall. Fei, Mo Kutua, and the others looked at each other, each of them feeling a chill from the bottom of their hearts so cold that it threatened to freeze their blood. The 8 demon kings knew that this was Sir Shaman Yo's revenge toward their clansmen. The curse that he declared a month ago was no idle threat, but rather an oath he was determined to fulfill, and now, they were the most powerful tools in Sir Shaman Yo's hands. "Let's discuss it." Fei had a slight headache. Although he had only a skeleton frame instead of flesh and blood, he still felt a throbbing pain in his neck he was unfamiliar with. Sir Shaman Yo truly gave them a difficult task. Their strength was indeed outstanding, but given that there were about 100,000 demons in Fort Torrent, they couldn't kill all of them with their own strength. If they were to complete this task, they needed to employ other means. The only advantage they had now was that the demon kings who originally garrisoned in Fort Torrent were gone. There were no leaders in Fort Torrent, so if the 8 of them operated properly, they may be able to control Fort Torrent and find a way to complete the task. The 8 demon kings gathered in the hall and began to discuss seriously. The content of their meeting was not about dealing with the foreign race, but rather how to kill the demons in Fort Torrent. Brainstorming, they soon came out with a set of plans and dispersed. A day later, rumors came up in Fort Torrent and began to spread wildly amongst the demon soldiers. Some rumors claimed that an army of the foreign race was coming, while some said that the demon kings had joined the enemy. Still others said that the demon race was about to lose tragically. No one knew where the rumors came from, but they seemed to only grow wilder by the day. The demons garrisoned in Fort Torrent had nothing to do while they all yearned to rush out to battle. So with natural tension and the lack of an outlet, their emotions became quite unstable. Therefore, the emergence of these rumors only amplified their anxiety, causing Fort Torrent to be shrouded in a strange atmosphere. In the beginning, the effect of these rumors was not so obvious, but with the passage of time and without any clarification from the demon kings, many demons started to believe them. After 3 days, the anxiety which was aroused by the various rumors finally exploded. Every demon was affected, whether it was directly or indirectly. Their thoughts were clouded and they could no longer behave rationally. Fei Li and the other demon kings acted at that moment, each of them gathering a group of demons under them, carving up the 100,000 soldiers in the city into individual camps. Soon, a civil war broke out. In Fort Torrent, various groups of demons fought each other for no reason in every corner of the city. Many demons fell, and Fort Torrent almost overflowed with blood. These clansmen who were friends just a few days ago had now turned into sworn enemies. No one knew what this was about, only that it was the orders of the demon kings, and they only had to obey. No one would have thought that the honorable demon kings would betray them, and no one would have thought that these demon kings would point their swords at their own people. Some demon great generals and smart demon generals began to suspect something was amiss, but they were unable to live long because Fei Li and the other demon kings had been keeping an eye on them. Once someone started doubting, they would execute them for some made-up reason or excuse. Fort Torrent seemed to have turned into a huge meat grinder, trapping more than 100,000 demons in it, crushing and dismembering them. The civil war raged without end, and at the late stage of the war, every demon had already lost their mind. Their eyes turned bloody red. They simply raised their weapons like drones and slaughtered all seemingly suspicious enemies. The war lasted for 3 days and 3 nights, with the more than 100,000 demons divided into 8 camps slaughtering each other. Countless bodies were stacked in the streets and alleys of Fort Torrent, where flies and maggots invaded, and a foul stench penetrated the air. 3 days later, less than 10,000 people had survived, but all of them were injured. All of them were mutilated to various degrees, groaning in pain. The 8 demon kings looked down silently from the air at the purgatory before them. Then they took action together and sent the remaining 10,000 disabled demons, together with the entire Fort Torrent, to hell, leaving nothing left of that base. With a flash, Xianxia appeared like a ghost. The 8 demon kings bowed. "You'll follow me from now on," Xianxia announced. After this incident at Fort Torrent, Fei Li and the others could never return to the demon race again. The 8 demon kings nodded in acknowledgement with mixed feelings. Xianxia opened the gate of the sealed world bead, and the demon kings filed in one by one before he turned and flew off in a certain direction. 10 days later, Xianxia arrived atop a certain jungle and searched below him with concentration. A moment later, he seemed to have found something and rushed down to a certain place. After landing, he looked in a certain direction and shouted, "Come out!" A graceful figure appeared leisurely from behind a big tree, and after seeing Xianxia, she immediately revealed a look of pleasant surprise and called out, "Sir, it's really you. I thought I heard wrongly." While talking, she rushed towards Xianxia. Xianxia looked at her coldly. Xianxia immediately stopped about 10 meters away from Xianxia, as if she had noticed something. Her beautiful face turned a little bloodless and she hurriedly explained, "Sir, I didn't betray you. Really. Please believe me." Xianxia replied coldly, "You would already be a dead woman if you had even thought of betrayal." Xiaoya's face turned even more pale as she looked at Xianxia fearfully, the joy from reuniting with him disappearing entirely. "Tell me what happened. Why are you here alone? Where's Bao Qi? What about the shaman Niu clan?" Xianxia asked several questions in one go. He could sense that Xianxia and Bao Qi were not together, which bewildered him, so he came here straight away. At first, he thought that one of the two demon kings, either Bao Qi or Xianxia, had betrayed him and escaped from the Shaman Yo clan. But he now found that he was wrong after seeing Xianxia. Xianxia did not betray him, but she was indeed a little frightened, like a lost rabbit. Bao Qi is with all of them, Xianxia hurriedly replied. They were all captured. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes. Captured? Who captured them? There were 20,000 people in the Shaman Yo clan, including several dozens of shamans, 1,000 in cavalry, and several dozen aerial cavalry. It was a great force in this war, and although it was incomparable to the demon race in Fort Torrent before, it was extremely outstanding for a barbarian race army. Who had the ability to capture 20,000 warriors? It was your own barbarian race. It seems to be a clan called the Bone-Devouring Clan, Xianxia recalled. Yang Kai's face changed. Are you sure it's the Bone-Devouring Clan? I don't know what the Bone-Devouring Clan looks like, but that's what Taya said. She said those guys were from the Bone-Devouring Clan. Why did the people from the Bone-Devouring Clan pick on my Shaman Yo clan? Did they? Before he finished, Yang Kai suddenly realized the problem. Xianxia continued. Bao Qi and I were discovered by them. They seemed to think that the Shaman Yo clan was controlled by us, so they started a fight. The twins tried to persuade them, but it was to no avail. Instead, they were hurt by those shaman kings. Bao Qi and I couldn't beat them. Then Bao Qi ended up being captured while I found an opportunity to escape and hid here all this time. Xianxia really wanted to cry. A few months ago, she was still a demon king who was in charge of an army of thousands of demons. But now, she had fallen into this situation like a lost dog, chased down by everyone. The barbarian race did not accept her identity and would definitely attack her whenever they saw her, while on the demon race side, she did not dare to go back because she was afraid of being caught by Mo Duo. As a demon king, she actually had to live like a mouse, hiding everywhere to avoid being found. Were there any casualties in the Shaman Yo clan? Yang Kai asked. Xianxia shook her head. Everyone else was fine. Only you and Lu were slightly injured. Taya ordered everyone not to resist. It was the right choice not to fight them. Yang Kai nodded. If the Shaman Yo clan really fought back, they would never be able to convince them of their innocence. It was reasonable for the Bone-Devouring clan to suspect them because it did not make sense for the barbarian race to work with two demon kings. Everything still could be solved if they did not start a fight, otherwise the two clans would certainly start a war. On top of that, given that the Bone-Devouring clan managed to capture Bao Qi and force Xianxia to retreat, they must have sent out many masters, and the Shaman Yo clan definitely stood no chance of winning. They were all taken to the Bone-Devouring clan's camp, and I don't know what their situation is now. Xianxia finished worriedly and quietly observed Yang Kai's reaction. Sir, are we going to save them? Yang Kai answered. Of course, it is my Shaman Yo clan that we're talking about. But Xianxia muttered. You don't need to show up. Just stay still. While speaking, Yang Kai reached out his hand and grabbed her. Xianxia did not resist and was directly thrown into the sealed world bead. Yang Kai turned around and looked in the other direction. He did not require Xianxia for guidance, because he could feel Bao Qi's presence thanks to the soul imprint in the latter's mind, which resulted in a connection that could not be easily cut off. Without delay, Yang Kai rushed off at full speed. He was not sure whether or not it was fate that the 20,000 people of his Shaman Yo clan fell into the hands of the Bone-Devouring clan, but regardless he was quite worried. The Bone-Devouring clan was originally different from other ancient barbarian clans, and if not for it being protected by a shaman saint, it would have been wiped out by the other ancient barbarians long ago. Furthermore, Yang Kai had some conflict with the Bone-Devouring clan, so this alone was enough for Yang Kai to worry about the safety of his 20,000 subordinates. The Bone-Devouring clan never forgave and always sought revenge for the slightest grievance. Back then, a shaman Qi escaped after being injured by Yang Kai, so a grudge had already been formed between them. If it were not due to the invasion of the Demon Clan, the Bone-Devouring clan would certainly have tried to take revenge against Yang Kai already. The Bone-Devouring clan was one of the 4 strongest ancient barbarian clans and even had a shaman saint assuming command. The bone-devouring clan was also the cruelest and most violent of all the clans. Before the invasion of the demon race, no barbarian clan was willing to start a conflict with the bone-devouring clan, even though everyone hated this clan and did not want to recognize them as a part of the barbarian race. But it was undeniable that the bone-devouring clan played a great role in this war to resist the invasion of the demon race. The entire eastern front line was braced by the bone-devouring clan, who marched forward step by step, slowly reclaiming most of the lost lands while slaying countless demons. The bone-devouring clansmen had proved the unyielding spirit and bravery of the barbarian race, and their ferocity and penchant for violence became an excellent weapon at this time. Many masters of the demon race learned of their existence and always paid close attention to their movements. Song-Air Mountain Valley was one of the fortresses of the bone-devouring clan, and there were more than 100,000 clansmen here, including 5 shaman kings. It was one of the most important locations to the bone-devouring clan, as well as to the whole barbarian race, because it was near the front lines of the war zone. Since the bone-devouring clan garrisoned more than 100,000 troops here, it had fought with an army of demons hundreds of kilometers away more than 6 times. The bone-devouring clan won more times than it lost, achieving a remarkable record and results in the war. However, for some unknown reason, the demon race seemed to be a lot quieter these past few months, resulting in some idleness in the bone-devouring clan. But today, the whole Song-Air Valley became lively. Almost all of the 100,000 barbarians had gathered at the center of the valley to look at the newly built stage with scorching excitement. The clansmen of the bone-devouring clan would only show such an expression when they saw the most delicious and novel food. On the high stage was a thick wooden stake to which a tall figure was bound using various shamanic spells. There were complex and strange patterns engraved on the stake, and from time to time, lightning would burst from those patterns like a torrent and flow through the bound figure. The tall figure would twitch from the electrocution, looking miserable, as if he was suffering tremendous pain. All the clansmen in the bone-devouring clan looked at the tall figure with exhilarated faces, and some even licked the corners of their lips occasionally. If not for knowing the true identity of this person, perhaps someone would have already rushed up and torn a piece of flesh out of this man to taste it. It was a demon king, a powerful demon king. It was captured by several of the shaman kings of the clan, and although the bone-devouring clan had no taboo on cannibalism and in fact had practiced it frequently for many years, no one dared to have the same thought for a demon king. No one knew whether they would be corrupted by the demon chi and turn into a demon if they took a bite of the demon king's flesh. But this worry still could not suppress their inner curiosity and desire. The more they thought about it, the more they wanted to taste the demon king's flesh and wondered what would happen to them after eating him. But it was pointless for those ordinary clansmen to fantasize, because a shaman king was standing beside the demon king. That person was Xianxia's old acquaintance, Shaman Qi. Shaman Qi held a dagger made of unknown material in his hand, his face filled with a ferocious and crazy expression. He took the dagger and sliced the demon king's flesh again and again, his bulky hands moving with extreme precision. With each slice, only a thin piece of flesh was cut, no more, no less. Many clansmen in the bone-devouring clan were quite particular about eating people alive because, for these people, fresh meat was more delicious than dead, rotten meat. If they could enjoy the struggling and crying of their prey in the process of their feast, it would undoubtedly be the most enjoyable meal. As one of the strongest among them, Shaman Qi was particularly fond of this practice. Bao Qi remained indifferent when the first piece of his flesh was sliced off, simply standing there glaring at Shaman Qi coldly, as if the slice of meat did not belong to him. As a demon king, he naturally possessed strong willpower and sufficient determination. Back then, he also only submitted to Xianxia because he was forcefully branded by a soul imprint and had no way to resist it. He was not afraid of this shaman king's tricks. But Bao Qi knew too little about the bone-devouring clan. When Shaman Qi excitedly put the piece of meat into his mouth, revealing an ecstatic look after devouring it, Bao Qi's face finally changed. It was nothing to cut his bones and flesh off. But Shaman Qi's practice of eating his flesh raw was obviously beyond Bao Qi's expectation. He watched as his own flesh was munched noisily in the mouth of the Shaman King. Even in the demon race, this was not a common practice. More than 100,000 clansmen of the bone-devouring clan stared eagerly at Shaman Chi, gulping down their own saliva. They were yearning to know whether the flesh of a demon king was delicious, or how it was different from those they had eaten before. The euphoric look on Shaman Chi's face did not fade as it seemed that he was enjoying the best food in the world with his eyes closed. After a while, he gulped down the chewed meat and shouted, "Delicious!" The clansmen jumped in excitement and cheered crazily, as if hot chicken blood was flooding their veins. Shaman Chi turned to Bao Chi with a grim smile. "Don't die so easily. A demon king is such a rare catch. You have to let all our clansmen taste your flesh before you perish." Bao Chi's face twitched slightly. Although he did not make a precise head count, he knew that there were at least 100,000 bone-devouring clansmen standing here. In other words, this shaman king would need to cut more than 100,000 slices of his flesh before he would be allowed to die. A demon king's resilience was incomparably strong, so even if he did have 100,000 pieces of flesh sliced from his body, Bao Chi would not die. However, it was obvious that such torture would bring him long and unbearable pain. Shaman Chi grinned and cut off another piece of Bao Chi's flesh before throwing it out and shouting, "This is the punishment for your demon race. Our bone-devouring clan will devour all your clansmen, so that you will never dare to set foot in our territory again." That thin piece of flesh was thrown into the crowd, which immediately led to chaos. Many of the bone-devouring clansmen fought for the piece of flesh, and finally it landed in the hands of a particular female clansman. She stuffed it into her mouth without hesitation before crouching down while holding her head down, enduring the beating of the other clansmen, shouting excitedly the whole time, "It's tasty. So tasty. See? These are the clansmen of our bone-devouring clan. Your demon race is nothing." Not only did Shaman Chi not mind about the riots below, but instead he grinned proudly. Bao Chi was silent. If he stood in the position of the demon race, he would refute Shaman Chi with a few words, but he had long been subdued by Xianxia, so although he was a demon king, he had been working for the barbarian race. Sadly, he was caught by these other barbarians and had to die by 100,000 cuts. It was not that he did not try to explain, but no one in the bone-devouring clan believed him. "Endure. You must live on." Shaman Chi raised his dagger again. "You cannot die too easily. You are a demon king after all. Don't disgrace your demon race." Another piece of flesh was sliced off and thrown into the crowd by Shaman Chi, causing another riot. After that, Shaman Chi sped up his actions. He did have good technique, and the rate at which his dagger flashed, slicing off pieces of flesh, was almost faster than the eye could see. With each new morsel, the crowd would be stirred up into a frenzy as the bone-devouring clansmen competed for the prize. In less than half a stick worth of incense, half of Bao Chi's arm was gone, exposing his white bones. During this period, he suffered at least 3,000 cuts. Even if he was a powerful demon king, he could not help shaking as cold sweat dripped from his forehead, and he clenched his teeth tightly to endure the severe pain. Several tens of meters away, from where more than 100,000 clansmen of the bone-devouring clan gathered, 20,000 people were watching quietly. These people were obviously different from the bone-devouring clan, because they appeared to be detained. They were surrounded by some masters of the bone-devouring clan, and any unusual movement would lead to a beating. These people were the clansmen of the Shaman Nyo clan, led by the twins Yu and Lu. They looked at the wooden stage, and many had an unbearable look on their faces. They all knew that Bao Chi had submitted to Xianxia, and the former had contributed a lot in many previous victories. Although the clansmen were unable to recognize him as their companion due to his identity as a demon, they had still once fought side by side. At the moment, many of them could not bear to see Bao Chi suffer such torture. It was just the blink of an eye to kill a person, but the practice of the bone-devouring clan shaman king was too cruel. You walked towards a bone-devouring clan shaman grandmaster, stood behind him and gritted her teeth as she shouted, "I want to speak to a shaman king." The shaman grandmaster turned around, looked at her, and sneered without answering. "I must speak to your shaman king," you bellowed again. The shaman grandmaster looked at her coldly. "Go back." You did not move and continued, Bao Qi is a subordinate subdued by Sir Shaman Nyo. He is now working for our barbarian race. You can't kill him, the Shaman Grandmaster sneered. He is a demon king. A demon king can't be subdued by Shaman Nyo. You've all been deceived by him. Sir Shaman Nyo will explain everything. Please release him first. When Sir Shaman Nyo comes, you will understand. Shaman Nyo? The Shaman Grandmaster smiled with disdain. Who is that? I have never heard of him. Sir Shaman Nyo is the Shaman Grandmaster of our South Barbarian clan. South Barbarian clan. The Shaman Grandmaster pretended to take her seriously for a moment and showed a sudden realization. But the South Barbarian clan perished. South Barbarian clan has not perished. We are still here. You gritted his teeth as she bellowed. The South Barbarian clan has not perished. A group of people shouted from behind, all looking outraged. They stood behind you one after another and glared at the Shaman Grandmaster. It had been a month since the appearance of the Black Brilliance, and word of the destruction of hundreds of thousands of people from the South Barbarian clan had spread widely. Everyone in the Shaman Nyo clan naturally knew about this, and although they may be the only group left in the South Barbarian clan, as long as they lived, the South Barbarian clan would never die. The Shaman Grandmaster looked at the crowd with a deep, meaningful smile. The South Barbarian clan will soon perish. You frowned as her heart sank. She understood the meaning of his words, and it caused her skin to crawl. Lu seemed to want to say something more, but immediately stopped when her sister tugged at her. You went back directly to Taya and whispered, "Can't you escape?" Among all the people here, Taya, who was a Shaman Grandmaster, was the strongest. If anyone could escape from this place, it would be Taya, but ever since they were caught, Taya had simply been staying quietly here without any intention to escape. Taya shook her head. Aren't you from the Nomad clan? Your concealment skills are without equal. Taya replied, but I'm just a Shaman Grandmaster, and there are 5 Shaman Kings here. You had nothing more to say. The huge gap in strength really made it impossible for Taya to escape from here. You continued, we will be eaten by them. Someone must escape to find Sir Shaman Nyo. Taya whispered, he will come and we won't be eaten. But you looked anxious. The words from the previous Shaman Grandmaster caught her attention. More than 20,000 people in the Shaman Nyo clan were detained here, not just because they had an ambiguous relationship with a demon king, but because the bone-devouring clan regarded them as rations. The 100,000 bone-devouring clansmen gathered here had to eat and drink. But how could there be so much food for them in this chaotic battlefield? The 20,000 people of the Shaman Nyo clan were like a delicious feast that delivered itself to them. That was why the Shaman Grandmaster insisted that the South Barbarian clan would perish. Isn't he already here? Taya suddenly grinned as she turned to the front, as if she had already foreseen what was about to happen. You, Lu, and all the others quickly turned around and looked up, their eyes shining brightly. They saw Sir Shaman Nyo's figure appear on the stage out of nowhere. He came in between Bao Qi and Shaman Qi, and grabbed Shaman Qi's right hand that held the dagger. The 100,000 clansmen of the bone-devouring clan were stunned by the sudden emergence of a person, and even Shaman Qi's face changed drastically. He instinctively pushed his shaman strength to resist, but found that he could not free his hand from the grip of this interloper. When he looked up, the face that had given him sleepless nights appeared before his eyes. It's you! Shaman Qi gnashed his teeth as he bellowed, his face immediately turning ferocious. Shaman Qi, you've grown old. Yang Kai looked at him indifferently. Hearing this, Shaman Qi's face spasmed as he shouted angrily, what shamanic spell did you use on me? Shaman Qi looked much older than half a year ago. When Yang Kai first met him, Shaman Qi looked only about 40 years old, but now he looked at least 10 or 20 years older. This was very unusual for a Shaman King. But not for a Shaman King who was hit by the Timefly's seal. Timefly's seal was the signature divine ability of Flowing Time Great Emperor and had the power to accelerate the passage of an object or individual's time. When Yang Kai was still a low-rank Shaman Grandmaster, he used the Timefly's seal on Shaman Qi outside Blue South Village, and although he wasn't strong enough back then to make this a fatal blow, it still had some effect on Shaman Qi, aging him rapidly. Shaman Chi had no idea what kind of shamanic spell he was hit with, and every time he recalled it, he would feel frightened and uneasy, but the hatred in his heart would also grow stronger. You wouldn't understand, and there's no need for you to understand. Yang Kai responded faintly. How could the shaman kings of this world possibly comprehend the divine ability of a great emperor who would not even be born for at least another 100,000 years? Yang Kai tightened his grip, and Shaman Chi could not help retreating a few steps back. Bao Qi is my subordinate. Yang Kai stared straight at Shaman Chi. He shouldn't receive such torture. Sir, Bao Qi shouted softly, holding back his trembling body. He thought that he would die here for sure, but Yang Kai's appearance brought him hope to live. Although there were 5 shaman kings here, he still believed that Sir Shaman Yo could save him. It was his instinct, an intuition, and Bao Qi trusted it with all his heart. Yang Kai nodded and a light flashed in his hand. Then as he tapped on Bao Qi's body, the shamanic spell that bound Bao Qi immediately collapsed, allowing him to regain his freedom. How dare you release him? Shaman Chi reprimanded angrily. In order to capture this demon king, the bone-devouring clan had put in a lot of effort, but now, Shaman Yo let him go as soon as he came. He simply did not put the bone-devouring clan in his eyes. Open your mouth. Yang Kai ignored him and ordered Bao Qi. Bao Qi opened his mouth as he was instructed. The next moment, something was thrown from Yang Kai's hand into his throat. Refine it. Bao Qi immediately sat cross-legged on the floor and circulated his strength to refine whatever it was that entered his stomach. He instantly felt a cool sensation spreading all over his body, which greatly reduced his pain, and especially his arm that only had white bones remaining, even causing a tingling sensation to spread out from it. Shaman Chi was so angry at this scene that he glared at Yang Kai with a darkened face. However, he didn't seem to be in a hurry to make a move and instead just sneered. Shaman Yo, I have to thank you. Thank me for what? Yang Kai looked up at him. As soon as Shaman Chi pushed his shaman strength, an extremely strong aura spread out. Yang Kai raised his brow. Oh, you're already a mid-rank shaman king. Congratulations. Shaman Chi continued. Without you, I wouldn't have been able to become a mid-rank shaman king so soon. He suffered a great loss in his encounter with Yang Kai last time, but although he was injured, Shaman Chi recognized his shortcomings and strived hard to improve. During his recuperation, he had a breakthrough in comprehension, and after countless battles with the demon race, he finally broke through from the low-rank Shaman King realm to the mid-rank Shaman King realm. No need to feel grateful. It was all your own effort. Yang Kai smiled lightly. Shaman Chi grimaced a little. Such a response was not what he hoped to see. Then he shouted, Shaman Yo, the South Barbarian clan has perished. If you want to live, you'd best understand what you must do. The South Barbarian clan has not perished. Yang Kai corrected him with a solemn look. I and my subordinates are still here, so the South Barbarian clan has not died. Shaman Chi laughed. With only a shaman grandmaster like you? All the shaman kings of the South Barbarian clan are dead. Without a shaman king, your clan has no qualification to exist. Don't you know that? The barbarians' clans often annexed each other. Just like Blue South Village, if Yang Kai had not been born there, the village without a shaman's protection would soon be annexed by other villages after the death of the old village chief. The same was true in all clans. Having a shaman king was the most important criteria for the existence of a great clan. A great clan without a shaman king would lose its standing. We just need a shaman king, right? Yang Kai closed his eyes as he spoke. If that's what you want. When he opened his eyes again, they radiated intensely, and an exceedingly powerful aura suddenly exploded from his body. Shaman Chi's face changed drastically as he thought that Yang Kai was going to attack him. In fact, he could not wait for him to do so that he could fight back without hesitation and obtain his revenge. To his great surprise, though, he found that Yang Kai did not have any intention to fight. Rather, the aura from his body grew stronger and more ferocious, and in the blink of an eye, it exceeded the realm of a shaman grandmaster and touched the shaman king realm. This is... Shaman Chi was dumbfounded. Before he could finish his sentence, Yang Kai's aura suddenly soared, as if the shackles restraining it had been broken through, allowing Yang Kai's realm to climb to a new height. Shaman Qi's eyes quivered violently as he could hardly believe what he just witnessed. If it's just a shaman king, there's one here now. Yang Kai grinned at him. The 20,000 shaman Nyo clansmen who were detained not far away burst out in cheers after a moment of stunned silence. All of them were excited beyond measure, especially Yu and Lu. Shaman King. There was a new shaman king in the South Barbarian clan. That meant that in this war of two races, the South Barbarian clan still had the right to act independently, and did not have to seek refuge under another great clan or became a vassal to one. The cheers were soon suppressed, however, as several figures suddenly appeared, and spread out into four corners to surround the stage. All of them possessed profound cultivation, revealing the aura of a shaman king. They were the other bone-devouring clan shaman kings assuming command in Tsang-Er Mountain Valley. They chose not to appear earlier because they did not think it was necessary. Shaman Qi should be able to deal with Yang Kai, who was just a shaman grandmaster, easily. But when Yang Kai suddenly and inexplicably became a shaman king, they had to show up. Among them, a bald shaman king had the most powerful aura and seemed to be a little stronger than the others. He looked at Yang Kai with his authoritative eyes, and remarked, "I've never seen such an effortless breakthrough to the shaman king realm. That simply means your knowledge is not broad enough." Even facing a high-rank shaman king whose cultivation was two minor realms above his own, Yang Kai remained calm and composed. "Rumor has it that you received the favor of the barbarian gods. I didn't believe it at first, but it seems that it might be true." The bald shaman king looked Yang Kai up and down as if he wanted to examine him thoroughly. "Sir has heard of me before?" Yang Kai was surprised. The bald shaman king glanced at Shaman Qi and continued, "I definitely would pay a little attention to those who could defeat stronger enemies and hurt Shaman Qi." Shaman Qi's face turned ugly, glaring at Yang Kai angrily, as if his unhealed wound had been sprinkled with salt. "But," the bald shaman king pressed on, "it's meaningless even if you break through to the shaman king realm. Your South Barbarian clan has perished. This is a fact, and no one can change it. I'm still alive, and 20,000 of my subordinates are still alive. We can rebuild the South Barbarian clan." Yang Kai continued with a deep voice, "Sir, don't make a judgment too early." The bald shaman king shook his head. "The sacred treasure of the South Barbarian clan is already lost, so where did you get that?" His eyes suddenly darted to an object that looked like a wood carving that Yang Kai was casually playing with in his hand. There was also a similar wood carving in the bone-devouring clan, but it was in the hands of their shaman saint. Even a high-rank shaman king like him was not qualified to touch it. The sacred treasure was a symbol of authority over their clan, and most people thought of it as just a token, but a few shaman kings knew that the sacred treasure had many other wonderful functions. Being able to obtain a sacred treasure would be a great help to a shaman king's cultivation. The bald shaman king could not understand how the sacred treasure of the South Barbarian clan appeared in the hands of this man named Shaman Nyo. The descent of the Black Brilliance destroyed several 100,000 South Barbarian clansmen, including all the South Barbarian clan shaman kings who were alive at the time. It only made sense that the sacred treasure was lost or destroyed together with the death of those shaman kings. Yet now it appeared right in front of his eyes. Could it be that this Shaman Nyo had been on that battlefield? This idea was extinguished as soon as it appeared, though, because as far as the bald shaman king knew, a highly authoritative and mighty demon saint, which was equivalent to the existence of a shaman saint, was present that day. If the Shaman Nyo really took part in the battlefield, how could it be possible for him to come back alive? It was somewhat different from the bone-devouring clan's expectations that the South Barbarian clan still had a shaman king, and the sacred treasure still existed. Led by the bald shaman king, several shaman kings of the bone-devouring clan exchanged eye contact silently to communicate with each other and reached a consensus shortly after. The bald shaman king then spoke, "Shaman Nyo, hand over the sacred treasure. Since you have taken refuge with the demon race, you are no longer a son of the barbarian gods." Yang Kai snorted. "Which eye of yours saw that we have taken refuge under the demon race?" Shaman Qi barked sternly. "Do Do you still deny it? If you didn't take refuge under the demon race, why are you still saving this demon king? Yang Kai replied, I told you, he is my subordinate, of course I had to save him. Shaman Qi smiled contemptuously. Based on your words, do you mean that this demon king was subdued by you? Exactly. Shaman Qi burst out laughing, obviously not believing it. The other shaman kings also shook their heads slightly, thinking that Yang Kai was too shameless to make such an exaggerated boast. Before this, Yang Kai was just a shaman grandmaster, so how could he force a demon king to submit? A demon king was an existence that was equivalent to them, the shaman kings. They had the same arrogance and pride, so if they were in the same position, they would never succumb to the tyranny of a demon great general and would rather die honorably than live in shame. You have been demonized, and you are also transformed into a demon. The bald shaman king sighed. Fortunately, you are not deeply affected by the demonization. If you hand over sacred treasure, the South Barbarian clan may still be pardoned. I would know if I had transformed into a demon. Sir doesn't need to worry. I am here today to take away the people from my Shaman Yo clan. I hope sirs can grant my request. Shaman Qi boomed sternly. Spare the nonsense. This guy is delirious. He just wants to rescue this demon king. Let me kill him and take back the sacred treasure. Shaman Qi lost his temper and took action in a flash. His shaman strength was already activated when he spoke, and a huge skull suddenly appeared and quickly expanded to the size of a house, opening its mouth to bite at Yang Kai, attempting to swallow him. The bald shaman king and the others watched indifferently, none of them attempting to stop Shaman Qi or help him, all of them apparently silently approving of his actions. Yang Kai had seen this skull before. Shaman Qi summoned the same shaman artifact when the two of them fought last time. It was extremely vicious and sinister, and its power now seemed to be much greater than previously. Yang Kai welcomed the sinister aura that rushed right towards his face with squinted eyes. The skull descended and swallowed him whole. Shaman Qi was stunned, as he did not expect it to be so easy. Joy crept up his face but quickly turned into shock because in the next moment, an earth-shaking sword light escaped through the 7 orifices of the skull. The entire skull flew out and began wobbling about like a headless fly through the air, regardless of how Shaman Qi tried to control it. Shaman Qi's face changed drastically as he quickly changed his hand seal. The skull opened its mouth wide, and Yang Kai and his sword were expelled in the form of a sword light. Whatever remained of the skull shrank rapidly at that point, greatly losing its spirituality. Shaman Qi's eyes were about to pop from their sockets in fury as his heart ached terribly. How could the strength of this Shaman Yo be so terrifying? He suffered a small loss the last time they clashed when he was a low-rank Shaman King and Yang Kai was a low-rank Shaman Grandmaster. But Shaman Qi thought he would be able to regain some of his dignity this time and never expected his opponent's growth to be even greater than his own. He was not Yang Kai's opponent at all. Even though it was only a short confrontation, Shaman Qi was sure of it. Luckily, I'm not alone. Shaman Qi thought silently as he looked up. On the other side, in front of Yang Kai stood the bald Shaman King, who seemed to have foreseen this coming and intercepted him ahead of time. He raised his hand and a pitch-black lance blasted towards Yang Kai. The power of the lance was amazing and seemed to flip the heavens and earth upside down. A mighty blow without reservations from a high-rank Shaman King was naturally extremely terrifying. As he struck, he bellowed, Shaman Yo, you are the matchless prodigy of our barbarian race. By right you would have great achievements in the future, but it's a pity that you had no self-respect and succumbed to the demon race. The barbarian race cannot forgive you, you must die here today. Yang Kai laughed heartily. Many have wanted my life and none of them have had good ends. Sir, you will be no exception. Saying so, he pointed the myriad's sword forward, and a cold light flashed before the sword swung with the ferocity of a dragon. The pitch-black energy lance was shattered by the sword strike and its remnants melted like snowflakes under the scorching sun. The bald Shaman King remained calm and quickly reacted. With a single thought, his hand seal changed, and the shattered black energy suddenly shrank, immediately transforming into a cage that attempted to capture Yang Kai inside of it. At the same time, apart from Shaman Qi, the other 3 shaman kings had also arrived, all of them looking ruthless, holding no reservations. They were determined to finish off Xianxia here, not only because Xianxia and the bone-devouring clan had old grudges, but also because he possessed the South Barbarian clan's sacred treasure. On top of that, the Shaman Yo clan mingled with the demon race, so his death would not be worth pitying. Even if the entire clan was slaughtered, the other clans would not disapprove. More than 20,000 people from the Shaman Yo clan gasped loudly. Yu and Lu, and the other shamans were even more nervous and desperately wanted to assist Xianxia, but unfortunately, they knew that they would not be much of a help with such a drastic difference in strength. They made up their minds that if anything happened to Sir Shaman Yo, they would immediately revolt and fight back, preferring to be killed by the people of Bone-Devouring clan than ending up as their food. On the stage, in the face of the joint attack of the 4 shaman kings, Xianxia remained calm. He swung the myriad sword in every direction in a seemingly chaotic, unorganized manner, but somehow the few swings completely shattered the shamanic spells of the other shaman kings, leaving only the cage of the bald shaman king, in which he remained firmly bound. Xianxia's body tensed at that moment as a majestic power erupted from within him. The formless black cage suddenly inflated several times its original size and began emitting a vague cracking sound, as if it might shatter at any time. The bald shaman king's face changed slightly at this sight and no longer dared to hesitate, chanting an obscure incantation between his lips. The other 4 shaman kings looked solemn and joined in the chanting together. The voices of the 5 shaman kings quickly merged together into one voice, where none of its components could be distinguished from the others. Followed by the change of incantation, a gigantic, unmatched skeletal hand appeared out of thin air. The skeletal hand was almost 100 meters in size and grabbed downwards at a seemingly slow but actually fast speed towards Xianxia. The grip of this skeletal hand was so powerful that even the surrounding world principles were trapped by it. Xianxia inexplicably felt himself being choked as his body bent as if a giant mountain was pressing down on his neck, making it impossible for him to stand straight. He was amazed by what he saw, although he did not know what shamanic spell this was. Since it required 5 shaman kings working together to cast, it could not be ignored. Kicking Bao Qi, who was next to him, out of the stage, Xianxia flickered to the side. There was a loud bang, and the skeletal hand clutched the newly built stage, crushing it into powder. Before Xianxia could stand firm though, the huge skeletal hand already made a second attempt to capture him. Xianxia's face darkened, but just as he was considering testing the abilities of the skeletal hand by facing it head-on, he suddenly saw a visible scorching light radiating from its palm. The scorching light leapt across space in an instant and shot directly towards his chest. Xianxia hurriedly dodged again. This repeated for the following consecutive attacks. Xianxia soon grew infuriated and shouted furiously, "Enough!" Shaman Qi guffawed. "Flee. Just continue to flee. Let's see how long more you can flee. Shaman Qi, you court death." Xianxia glared at him coldly. "You are having trouble fending for yourself, and you still have the time to threaten me?" Shaman Qi curled his lips disdainfully. "You'd best care for your own life first. You already know why I must remain passive." Xianxia retorted coldly while evading the attacks of the chasing skeleton hand. Shaman Qi chuckled. "Only someone incompetent would run. Everyone has the innate instinct to preserve his own life." "You're wrong." Xianxia shook his head slightly and said plainly, "I just don't want Sir Shaman Saint to chase me down." "Why would Sir Shaman Saint chase you down?" Shaman Qi frowned. Xianxia grinned cunningly, showing his fangs. "If I killed all of you, do you think Sir Shaman Saint wouldn't hunt me down?" Shaman Qi froze for a moment, and then burst into laughter as if he heard some funny joke. "Just you alone? Do you want to kill all of us with only your pitiful strength? Shaman Yo, are you still dreaming?" Xianxia stopped talking to him and turned to the bald shaman king. "All of you shouldn't die at my hands. The demon race is still raging across this land, so your strength should be used to deal with those demon kings. You don't need to worry about the demon kings, we will take care of them. You, on the other hand, should surrender without a fight." The bald shaman king replied coldly. Xianxia sighed, and finally remarked with difficulty, "It's not too late to stop now, otherwise." You will bear all the consequences. The bald shaman king seemed to become maddened too and shouted. This is the first time I have seen a person blurt out such preposterous words. I hope you are more capable than your words. With a snort, he pushed his shaman strength even more fiercely, causing the giant skeletal hand's might to increase again. Then have a look for yourself if I am capable or not. Xianxia suddenly stopped fleeing and stood his ground. His myriad sword lifted slightly. The 5 shaman kings of bone-devouring clan were horrified at the sight of it, knowing that Xianxia was really going to take this seriously, and immediately urged the giant skeletal hand to grab him. The tiny figure and the huge skeletal hand created a very sharp visual contrast to every barbarian who watched the scene, whether it was the clansman of bone-devouring clan or the clansman of the shaman Yo clan. At this moment, none of them were aware that they were holding their breaths, as they witnessed something exciting enough to be recorded in the annals of history. Xianxia did not evade the grasp of the gigantic skeletal hand this time. As the huge hand closed its grip, Xianxia's figure disappeared, and more than 100,000 bone-devouring clansmen cheered and worshipped their 5 shaman kings. The faces of Yu and Lu turned pale, and they seemed to be unable to accept the scene in front of them. However, Taya's voice immediately came from the side. He's fine. Taya was a notably special existence in the shaman Yo clan. She was just a shaman grandmaster, but she seemed to have insight that even a shaman king could not possess, her words never once being false. She stated before that Xianxia would come for them. Then Xianxia came. Therefore, everyone in the shaman Yo clan seemed to be affected by her words and felt reassured. On the contrary, the 5 shaman kings of the bone-devouring clan wore stern looks on their faces and did not seem to rejoice in their success. A grunt suddenly came out of the gigantic skeletal hand. No one could make out the mutter clearly. However, after the grunt, a loud dragon roar suddenly burst out, followed by an incomparably huge golden dragon manifesting inside the palm of the gigantic skeletal hand. A terrifying aura filled the air. The 5 bone-devouring clan shaman kings who joined hands suddenly felt a sense of insignificance. The gigantic skeletal hand was forced open by a golden light as a huge figure could be seen through its fingers, standing on its palm. Followed by a swing of sword light, the skeletal hand trembled and its fingers were severed, falling from the sky like 5 small hills, frightening the bone-devouring clansmen below and forcing them to flee the mess. Xianxia, who used his dragon transformation, jumped onto the skeletal palm, dragging the myriad's sword along with him as he ran up the arm, creating a series of screeches and sparks. In the blink of an eye, Xianxia reached the elbow of the skeletal arm, standing towering like a glorious king as he gazed down at everything below him. The 5 bone-devouring shaman kings looked up together and saw a scene that they would never forget in their life. The skeletal hand, which was jointly condensed by 5 of them, was cleaved by a newly promoted shaman king with sheer brute force. A huge crack split from the wrist of the skeletal hand all the way to the elbow, like a ravine that represented a testimony of the passage of years and the changes of eras. Xianxia tapped his foot lightly, and the entire skeletal arm was split into 2. The shamanic spell of the 5 shaman kings was broken, and the gigantic skeletal hand immediately turned into 1,000,000 points of light before vanishing. With his myriad swords pointing downwards, Xianxia declared with a cold face, I didn't want to fight with you, but that doesn't mean that I can't. Since you started this, I will give all of you an unforgettable lesson. His eyes darted at Shaman Qi. Shaman Qi was in a panic and stepped back involuntarily upon sensing the strong murderous intent in Xianxia's eyes. Save me! Shaman Qi bellowed and moved to get close to the other shaman kings. The bald shaman king was the first to react and attempted to fly towards him. But Xianxia released a sword light from the sky to block his path, and when the sword light dissipated, the bald shaman king was stunned in place as he stared at the scene before him. There, Shaman Yo had already rushed to Shaman Qi. His sword pointed at the neck of the Shaman Qi. Hundreds of villagers in Blue South Village died because of your bone-devouring clan. Killing one of your shaman kings today should be sufficient revenge for my people. Appalled, Shaman Qi bellowed, How dare you? Sir Shaman Saint will not forgive this. If you really kill me, The shaman saint will chase you till the ends of the world. Xianxia sneered. I've been chased by a demon saint for a month already. Do you really think I'd fear your shaman saint? Besides, he seems to be recuperating, right? So you'd best just die in peace. Stop! The bald shaman king suddenly shouted. Xianxia asked steadily as he turned to him. You have something to say, sir? Let Shaman Qi go and I'll let all of you go. The bald shaman king proposed in a deep voice. Xianxia smiled and shook his head. When I asked you to stop, you kept forcing me. Now that something has gone wrong, you want to make peace with me? Life is not so kind. I'm sorry, the decision is in my hands now. The bald shaman king pressed on. Killing Shaman Qi won't do you any good. It will only forge a deep enmity between you and our bone-devouring clan. Xianxia curled his lip. And your clan won't hate me if I don't kill him? You are a clan that will seek revenge for the slightest grievance. If it weren't for the invasion of the demon race, you would have already attacked my Blue South village again. Since we already have an old grievance, I don't mind adding a new one. A shaman king is an indispensable force in the war of two races right now. You can't kill him. Funny. Xianxia snapped back. I'm also a shaman king. Yet did you five not join hands to kill me just now? That's because we thought you were transformed into a demon. If I were transformed into a demon, all of you would have to die today. Not just one. As Xianxia's words fell, the chilling light of the myriad sword in his hand flashed and Shaman Qi's head flew into the sky as a fountain of blood burst from his neck. The remaining four bone-devouring shaman kings all stared in horror. They thought Xianxia was just bluffing and would not really kill Shaman Qi, but they did not expect him to really do it. Shaman Qi's body was still standing in place, while the expression on his severed head was one of utter shock. Obviously, he did not think his life would end just like this. Instead of dying at the hands of the demon race, he died at the hands of a fellow barbarian. After killing Shaman Qi, Xianxia teleported in front of the bald shaman king and stabbed the myriad's swords a hand length into his chest. The bald shaman king was instantly stiffened and dared not to move a muscle. Don't underestimate me. I can kill all of you if I wish. Xianxia stared at the bald shaman king coldly as a drop of cold sweat rolled down the latter's cheek. But all of you still have some use. You can fight and kill demons, so I will spare your lives today. Xianxia withdrew his myriad swords before staring down from above at the bald shaman king and declaring in a fierce voice, all of you better remember, don't provoke my South Barbarian clan. Whoever dares will pay the price. The bald shaman king remained silent, obviously somewhat traumatized. Stowing away the myriad swords, Xianxia walked past the bald shaman king and went straight to the place where the 20,000 people of the Shaman Yo clan were being detained. The bone-devouring clansmen who stood in the way looked at Xianxia in fear, as if they were looking at a fierce beast, and soon they split apart, opening a path for him. When he reached the front of the Shaman Yo clan, the shaman grandmaster of the bone-devouring clan who had been guarding them looked as if he had still not come to his senses. Xianxia raised his eyes, and the shaman grandmaster immediately stepped aside, a breeze blowing by as he felt a chill shoot up his back. Sir! Yu, Lu, and all the others came forward to salute him. Their eyes were filled with awe. Let's go, Xianxia called. Ahu came forward and reported, they took our mounts. Xianxia looked back at the bald shaman king. It was obvious that the bald shaman king was struggling, and Xianxia began to reveal a meaningful grin. A moment later, the bald shaman king seemed to have made the hardest decision of his life and shouted, return to them those things. The clansmen of the bone-devouring clan immediately rushed out, and a moment later, 1,000 demon beasts and several dozen giant eagles were released from their cages and returned straight back to their masters. The cavalry mounted their demon beasts, while the aerial cavalry rode their giant eagles into the air. More than 20,000 people marched out of Tsong Air Mountain Valley in an orderly fashion, each member of the Shaman Yo clan holding their heads high, their backs as straight as javelins. Behind them were the eyes of more than 100,000 bone-devouring clansmen, all of them filled with complicated feelings. When the people of the Shaman Yo clan finally left their sight, only then did the people of the bone-devouring clan let out a sigh of relief. The remaining 4 shaman kings all looked tired, as if they had exhausted all their energy. Outside the mountain valley, the army was no longer able to contain their excitement, and the silence was finally broken. People began to chatter amongst themselves about what had just happened, and the more they discussed, the more exhilarated they became. No one stopped them. Everyone had been detained by the bone-devouring clan and suffered mental torment for the past few days. Now that they had finally been rescued, not to mention in an extremely astonishing way, by Sir Shaman Yo, they naturally needed to vent their pent-up emotions. "What do you want to say?" Xianxia turned to you and asked. Since earlier, she had clearly been hesitant to say something. Even before she spoke, though, Xianxia already guessed what she wanted to discuss and asked, "Do you think I shouldn't have killed Shaman Qi?" You nodded. "He is a shaman king of the bone-devouring clan after all, but now he died at your hands. If word of this spreads, other clans may reject us. Our South Barbarian clan is now in decline, so we should avoid drawing too much unwanted attention." Xianxia smiled lightly and shook his head. "It is exactly because we are on the wane that we cannot restrain ourselves. We must let all the other clans know that even if there is only 1 shaman king and 20,000 people left in the South Barbarian clan, the South Barbarian clan will not die. We will control our own destiny, not submit to others." His eyes gradually narrowed. "The defense line of the demon race is narrowing and the war will become more and more intense. If we don't become stronger and more ruthless, we will be used as sacrifices by other clans sooner or later." After pondering for a while, you found his words reasonable and could only nod her head. "Perhaps you are right." Xianxia pressed on. "Furthermore, it's their fault this time. It's wrong for me to kill a shaman king, but I don't think anyone will be in a hurry to stand up for Shaman Qi. The bone-devouring clan will continue to hate us and want to fight us, but that will only happen after the war between the 2 races ends. I just hope that they can survive until the end." "What about us?" You looked up at Xianxia like a child who had yet to mature. "We will survive, drive away the demon race, and rebuild our homes." Yu's eyes were filled with fascination as she visualized this beautiful future. "Sir Shaman Dang died in battle," Xianxia suddenly declared. The longing on Yu's face was retracted, and her eyes drooped without a word, overwhelmed by sadness. Lu reached out to hold her arm, and the 2 sisters leaned closely together. The world wept as countless lives were extinguished. It had been 2 years since the invasion of the demon race, and during this time the 2 races fought thousands of battles. More and more barbarian clans were destroyed, and one demon race army after another had been slaughtered. War raged across the north of this world, with warriors dying every moment of every day. About a month ago, the shaman saints and demon saints had finally fully recovered and left their seclusion one after another. The 2 sides fought with each other again. However, everyone held back their strength this time and mostly probed the enemy this time. Compared to 2 years ago, the barbarian race was at a disadvantage due to the addition of Demon Saint Mo Duo to the demon race side. The extra demon saint had broken the balance between the 2 sides. Everyone who survived through the 2 years of grim war had grown a lot. The only remaining army of the South Barbarian clan grew stronger and stronger in the war, and it had now expanded to as many as 100,000 people. The reputation of Shaman Yo also spread throughout the 2 races. It was no longer a secret that he enslaved 10 demon kings, and it was precisely due to these 10 demon kings that the Shaman Yo clan could remain ever triumphant in this long war. 2 years was enough to bring about a lot of changes. The greatest change was the endless reinforcements of the demon race from the hole in the world barrier. Although this opening wasn't completely stable, and powerful masters could not pass through it freely, weaker troops could come and go as they pleased. But this did not deter the barbarian race's desire to recover their lost land. Almost every clan of the demon race 100 clans had their own innate divine ability, and without the 10 demon kings who Xianxia had subdued, the barbarian race would have suffered a great invisible loss. The demon kings knew the details of the demon race like the back of their hand, which Xianxia had already summarized and passed on to the leaders of the other great clans. With this information, the barbarian race was able to drastically reduce their losses, otherwise the war would not have been so smooth for them. Although the demons kept flooding in from the passage between the two worlds, compared to 2 years prior, the defense line of the demon race had shrunk to just a 2,000-kilometer radius from the passage. All the demons gathered here, while various great clans of the barbarian race stationed themselves at the perimeter of this 2,000-kilometer region. Millions of warriors from both sides now confronted each other in this place. An incomparable huge rift stood in the sky, the large gap unable to close up due to the constant infusion of vigorous demon chi. The sight was truly terrifying, and it could be seen clearly by all even from very far away. It was like a never-healing scar in the sky. This was the channel torn open by the great demon god of the demon realm with his terrifying means. The barbarians called it the Two Worlds Passage. As long as this passage was not closed, this war would never end. All the leaders in the barbarian race were aware of this. Therefore, over the past 2 years, all the barbarians had been working hard towards this goal, besieging the demon race everywhere, forcing them back so they could seal the Two Worlds Passage. As long as Two Worlds Passage was sealed, the source of the reinforcements for the demon race would be cut off. No more demons would be able to come from the demon realm, and the demons remaining in this land would also be weakened, making them fish on the chopping block. Several large-scale attacks by the barbarian race were resisted by the demon race, with many demonized barbarians being used as sacrifices to hold back the enemy. Both sides suffered injuries, but there was no way for the barbarian race to break through to the Two Worlds Passage. Xianxia had gone out to check the Two Worlds Passage several times personally and confirmed that it was really connected to another great world and even allowed the world principles of that world to interfere with the native world principles. Even if he was proficient in the space principles, he could not repair this gash with his current strength. Only if he became a great emperor would that be possible. He was just a high-rank shaman king now, and while he seemed to be very close to becoming a great emperor, he was still far away. Over the last year or so, he had broken through from the low-rank shaman king realm to the high-rank shaman king realm. It was a miracle without a doubt. No one had ever advanced so quickly in the history of the barbarian race, but Xianxia did. Of course, part of the reason was that he had the attributes of an emperor realm master to begin with, but the biggest help was the sacred treasure that was given to him by Shaman Dang before he died. When he first obtained the sacred treasure, Xianxia did not notice anything special about it. Only after becoming a shaman king did he become aware of the secrets of the sacred treasure. Every time he cultivated in retreat, the sacred treasure seemed to turn into a medium that connected him to the Shaman Divine Temple. The Shaman Divine Temple was the most sacred place to all barbarians. Historical records and precious shamanic spells of all the barbarian masters over countless years were accumulated there. And Xianxia was able to roam the Shaman Divine Temple with his soul while he possessed the sacred treasure, allowing him to see the wonderful abilities of countless mighty experts and all of their legendary legacies. This knowledge was much more extensive than what was passed down to him by the evergreen divine tree. After discovering this, Xianxia understood why the shaman kings of the bone-devouring clan attempted to rob the sacred treasure from him. Obviously, they knew the value of the sacred treasure for cultivation and wanted to obtain it for themselves. A clan with a high-rank shaman king definitely could not be underestimated, not to mention one that had 10 demon king subordinates. As the last remnants of the South Barbarian clan, the Shaman Yo clan had been recognized and approved by various great clans of the barbarian race. The twins, Yu and Lu, had also successfully become shaman grandmasters and ranked only second to Xianxia in the Shaman Yo clan. Other shamans had more or less improved too, with those who had followed Xianxia since the beginning becoming the backbone of the Shaman Yo clan. Taya remained the same, however. It seemed that the 2 years of war did not bring any changes to her, nor did her cultivation improve in any noticeable way. She did not seem to care about the war at all and simply followed Xianxia all the time. She never appeared when Xianxia did not need her, but as long as Xianxia looked for her, she would always be there. It was as if she could read Xianxia's thoughts. Even after 2 years together, Xianxia could not see through this woman's thoughts. The closed door was knocked on, and Xianxia sighed softly, ending his wandering in the Shaman Divine Temple. He put away the sacred treasures as he looked up. "Come in." The twins, Yu and Lu, pushed the door in with overly serious looks. "What are the new orders from the shaman saints?" Xianxia looked up at them. The sisters were just summoned by the shaman saints to discuss the matter together with the shaman kings of the other clans. They actually did not have the qualifications to attend such a meeting, for they were just shaman grandmasters. But the situation of the Shaman Yo clan was somewhat special, so no one fussed about Xianxia not showing up personally. During this time, Xianxia had been cultivating, so he handed over the administrative matters of the Shaman Yo clan to Yu and Lu. Looking at their faces after coming back from the meeting, Xianxia realized that something serious had been decided. "The time for the final battle has come," Yu replied, her voice trembling. Xianxia raised his brow. Have they found a way to seal the two worlds' passage? This was the difficult problem the barbarian race urgently needed to solve. As long as the two worlds' passage was sealed, the demons who invaded this land would be cut off from support, and the barbarian race would be able to eliminate them sooner or later. However, this was also an unsolvable problem. Even the four shaman saints were incapable of shutting the two worlds' passage, which was the reason for this unending war between the two races. Both sides knew that the war would not end easily unless the two worlds' passage was closed. But right now, the shaman saints suddenly declared a final assault. The thought that naturally came into Xianxia's mind was that they had found a way to seal the two worlds' passage. This was great news, but Xianxia did not think that the shaman saints possessed such ability. It was not him underestimating them, but simply a fact. They seemed to have found a method. Seemed to. Xianxia frowned. Is that how the shaman saints answered you? Anything uncertainty was intolerable in war, for a single accident would be enough to doom hundreds of thousands of people. You continued. By the looks of the sirs, they seem quite confident, but they did not explain much about it. Lu pressed on. The sirs want you to meet with them immediately. Xianxia touched his chin. It seems like they really are confident. If they were not confident, they would not specifically ask him to meet them again. The reason that they did not explain it clearly was because they were afraid that those shaman kings could not keep the secret. Without delay, Xianxia left the Shaman Yo clan station and rushed to the location of the shaman saints. He had been here several times before, so he was familiar with the way. However, later on, when he had to cultivate, he did not want to waste time and just ordered Yu and Lu to represent him in meetings. Ever since then, he did not show up when the shaman saints called. However, the situation now was obviously somewhat unusual. In a simple and crude hall, Xianxia saw Shaman Saint Su. Saint Su was a special existence among the four shaman saints. He was an extraordinary character by any measure in any time, be it the past, present, or even future, because although he was a shaman saint, he did not know much about shamanic spells and instead relied completely on his physical prowess to reach his current height. He was a master who achieved sainthood through body tempering. The warriors of the barbarian race focused on body tempering too, but in the past 100,000 years, only Saint Su had achieved sainthood this way. In the Battle of the Saints 2 years ago, almost all the shaman saints and demon saints were injured, while Saint Su was the only one who escaped unscathed and returned with the other 3 shaman saints. His strength was unquestionable. Although Su was a shaman saint, he did not put on airs, and Xianxia had dealt with him several times, having a good impression of him. No matter what happened, this shaman saint was always smiling and seemed exceptionally amiable. The other 3 shaman saints were absent, which Xianxia felt slightly relieved about. It was not because he was afraid, but he wanted to avoid the troubles of meeting the shaman saint of the bone-devouring clan. After all, there was a deep resentment between the Shaman Yo clan and the bone-devouring clan. Back then, Xianxia killed a shaman king of the bone-devouring clan, and the shaman saint of the bone-devouring clan had been deeply upset with him ever since. If the Shaman Yo clan had not been performing remarkably well in the war between the two races, killing numerous demons and making great contributions, the bone-devouring clan would have attacked the Shaman Yo clan long ago. This was also one of the reasons why Xianxia did not respond to the summons of the shaman saints previously. Su looked young, barely 40 years old. He had a wide mouth and nose, a square head and big ears. His dark red complexion, burly body, unusually long arms that almost hung down to his knees, and extremely wide palms that appeared as if they could lift a huge mountain or block a river, gave him a somewhat comical appearance. Every time Xianxia saw him, he was amazed by the fierce and surging vitality coming from his body, And this was after Su restrained his aura to the maximum possible extent. If he had been unleashing his aura, his vitality alone would be a shocking sight to see. Xianxia believed that if a giant dragon appeared in front of Saint Su, he could tear it apart with his bare hands. If Xianxia's body was like the rising sun, Shaman Su's body would be the scorching noon Sunday. One would feel burnt just by standing before him. "Sir!" Xianxia stood in the hall, crossing his fist across his chest. Saint Su turned around, but the smile that had always been on his face was absent this time, while his eyes were dignified and solemn. He asked quickly, "You should know why I called you over, right?" Xianxia replied, "I heard that there is going to be a final battle." "Indeed." Su gave a slight nod. "It's the final battle, and our victory depends on this one move." Xianxia frowned and asked, "Forgive me for asking, but how are we going to seal the two worlds' passage? Have you found a way?" Su finally smiled. "Yes, I can't reveal the specific method to you yet, but I can guarantee that this is a feasible method." He was a shaman saint, so there was no need to promise a shaman king anything, but since he said so, he obviously had great confidence in this method. Xianxia nodded to express his understanding. "Then what did Sir summon me for?" Su grew somber again and declared, "I need you to put this method into effect." "Me?" Xianxia was stunned. "There are shaman saints here, why me?" Su explained, "This method needs to be carried out by surprise, so it's too conspicuous for me or the other 3 shaman saints to do it. Only the shaman kings stand a chance to succeed, and among all shaman kings, you are the strongest, and the Shaman Yo clan is also the most elite force, so we chose you and your Shaman Yo clan to take up this task." Xianxia fell silent for a while. He did not decline, but opened his mouth. "What are we supposed to do specifically? You don't need to know now. Someone will inform you before the final battle begins. You just need to tell me. Can you take up this responsibility?" For the first time, there was a majesty in Su's gaze, and it felt as if a burning flame made manifest was staring at Xianxia. Xianxia grinned. "I don't think Sir would specifically summon me if I couldn't." Su laughed heartily, patted Xianxia's shoulder, and said warmly, "Rest assured, on the day of the final battle, all barbarians will strive to create an opportunity for you. You only need to execute the plan." "When will the final battle be?" Xianxia raised his head to ask. "In 5 days." After returning from his meeting with Su, Xianxia did not cultivate in retreat. 5 days was not enough to improve his strength, so he walked slowly around the Shaman Yo clan's base, studying the familiar and unfamiliar faces of his clansmen. Every ancient barbarian who saw him saluted with utmost respectfully. The news of the final battle seemed to have spread out, and the 100,000 clansmen of the Shaman Yo clan had already begun preparing. The warriors sharpened their weapons, and the cavalry fed their mounts, all of them preparing to perform their best in the upcoming fight. The archers crafted arrows, and the shaman masters adjusted their breathing in retreat to maintain their most perfect condition, so they could display their best in 5 days. Xianxia bumped into many familiar faces, all of whom had followed him since the beginning of the war. Less than half of the 200 villagers from Blue South Village were left after this brutal struggle. Most of the villagers died in the war, but those who survived became far stronger. There were more unfamiliar faces than familiar ones, though. These people were recruited by the Shaman Yo clan over the past year or so. They came from different backgrounds, but now were all part of the Shaman Yo clan. Xianxia found Ahu, who was feeding his mount somewhere in the middle of the camp. Ahu was exhilarated by Xianxia's arrival, left his mount, and ran over. "What are you doing here?" Ahu asked. "I came to see you guys." Xianxia laughed lightly, his eyes sweeping over the several dozen scars that marked Ahu's body. These were all proof of his bravery in battle. The war made people grow rapidly, and the Ahu today was no longer a small villager of Blue South Village, but the captain of thousands of cavalry. Based on his own strength alone, he could fight on par with a shaman master. "Come here, look at my mount." Ahu pulled Xianxia to a demon beast. Just like his owner, this demon beast was covered with badges of courage, but it still brought its huge head closer to rub against Ahu affectionately. Ahu grinned. "Not too shabby, right?" Kai reached out to pat the demon beast and asked, "Have you named it?" Ahu scratched his head shyly and replied, "It's also called a Nyo." Kai guffawed loudly, "It's just like me." "No. It was disobedient before, so I told it that I will ask Anyo to give it a lesson." Then it quickly became quiet. Probably because it heard that name too often, it assumed that it was its own name. Now whenever I say the name Anyo, it will become obedient. Tisk. This one is the kind that bullies the weak and fears the strong. Ahu grinned good-naturedly. Although he had grown tremendously, his smile was still the same from when he was a mere villager 2 years ago. Demon Beast Anyo whinnied lowly, but no one knew what it meant. "Go and see Ahua and the others," Ahu chuckled. "They've been working hard since we received the news that the final battle is about to begin." Kai nodded lightly again before he stared deeply at Ahu and said, "Live!" Ahu responded in a laugh. "You too." Kai turned and left. Ahu shouted from behind, "Anyo, is this really the last battle?" Kai stopped in his tracks and replied, "It will be the last battle, I promise." Ahu's smile was even brighter before turning to the rest of the cavalry group next to him and shouting, "Did you hear that? Sir said this is our last battle. Give everything you have and wipe out all those demon bastards. Then all of us can go home." "Ho ho ho." The cavalry group roared in excitement, as if they were not going to war but coming home after victory. 5 days was neither long nor short. Kai went through the entire station with a smile on his face, nodded at every barbarian that met his eyes, and briefly chatted with some of them. Everyone asked him if this was the last battle. Although the 2-year war was not long, it caused an enormous amount of pain and death. The barbarians were tired and sick of it. Knowing that this was the last battle gave them hope, and they pursued affirmation persistently. Kai gave them the hope they wanted. However, how many of them would really live to see the end of this war? 50,000? 20,000? 10,000? Less? Although they did not know what the shaman saints expected from their shaman Yo clan to do, it was definitely a difficult task, and to complete such a task, one must be prepared to pay the price. Most of the shaman Yo clan was going to die. This battle was different, and it would not allow any retreat and timidity. In this battle, either the barbarian race or the demon race would perish. There would be no backing down. Early in the morning 5 days later, the shaman Yo clan was ready to depart. The 100,000 people divided into nearly 100 army units and lined up neatly and orderly. Although there were many people, it was completely silent save for the pounding of hearts. Everyone's determined-filled eyes were cast on the scar in the distant sky. Surrounding them were all allies consisting of the groups from the other great clans. Like the shaman Yo clan, everyone was silent. Nervousness and excitement bubbled within each of them, and they could not help but tighten their grip on their weapons, in hopes to get a little divine comfort. At this moment, millions of barbarians were all set to charge. Without the slightest sign, a dull horn sounded. The shaman kings of the great clans shook before they gave the signal to move out. The same went for the shaman Yo clan. Kai stayed at the forefront of his army, maintaining the same line with the surrounding allies. He looked around and did not see the person shaman Saint Su mentioned, but he just shook off the doubts in his heart and thought about it no more. The sound of the horn was steady and dull, just like the pace of the millions of barbarians, the ground trembling beneath their feet. In the distance, the demon race army also began to advance. During the last 5 days, the barbarian race was not the only one preparing for war. The demon race had been making their own preparations as well, getting ready to respond as soon as they saw any action on the barbarian race side. The armies of the two races slowly approached each other, and the breathing of the warriors became heavy. The air was slowly drenched in murderous intent, which gradually turned into an invincible momentum. The drums of war pounded, their rhythm gradually speeding up, and the barbarian race army increased their pace to a brisk walk. When the beating of the drums became even closer together, the brisk walk became a jog. The distance between the two races quickly narrowed. When the distance between each other shrank to just 50 kilometers, the tempo of the drums suddenly rose again. There was a roar, and one cavalry group after another rushed out from their respective clans. The warriors that rode their mounts under them charged forward fiercely. Demon Chi rolled and gathered on the side of the demon race, engulfing the many millions of them. Although the number of the barbarian race was not as great, they were superior in terms of grandeur, because all the cavalries were blessed by various shamanic spells, and every barbarian's cavalry flashed in colorful rays of light, especially the color green, which was the most conspicuous. It appeared as though a green ribbon was closely connecting each of the members of the cavalry group. It was one giant life chain, a powerful shamanic spell that helped many barbarians survive this brutal war. Before the cavalries reached the enemy, arrows were released. The archers of the two races each shot deadly sharp arrows at each other's force. The arrows flying through the sky were like locusts crossing the border. The dense arrows covered the sky and shrouded the ground. The arrows fell from the sky, dropping one cavalry after another to the ground, but it did not stop the charge following behind from advancing, many trampling directly over the fallen. Even the strongest warrior would have been smashed into a pile of mashed meat if he was stomped on with such force. Ahu turned around and looked over the crowd towards Xianxia, while the demon beast under Anyo's hips growled lowly, as if it was unable to suppress its urge to join the war. It was the same for the rest of the Shaman Yo clan's cavalry. But they did not move because Xianxia did not signal them to. The Shaman Yo clan was the only group that had not sent out its cavalry. Xianxia ignored Ahu's inquiring gaze and continued to look into the distance. Seeing this, Ahu retracted his gaze in disappointment and suppressed the restlessness of his mount. The whooshing noise filled the air as a few rounds of arrows were fired. The cavalries of both races suffered some injuries and the several dozen kilometer distance between them slowly narrowed, allowing the cavalries of the two races to clash with one another. Blood spurted everywhere in an instant, as flesh was cleaved from bone. The cavalries of both races were knocked to the ground one after another. The ones who lost their mounts often died where they landed within 10 breaths of time. It was the same for both the barbarian race and the demon race. The arrows were still being fired, but their targets were no longer their opponent's cavalry but the archers of both sides. This was an archery competition. Whoever had better marksmanship and agility would have the upper hand. The barbarian race suffered a small disadvantage. The barbarian spirit archers were riding on flying barbarian beasts, so all their evasion relied on the mounts. On the other hand, all the archers from the demon race flew under their own power, which undoubtedly gave them better mobility. The dull war drum echoed endlessly, as if it were a call from ancient times, arousing the excitement in the hearts of all barbarians. Just after a stick of incense worth of time, the clashes of the cavalries of both sides resulted in mountains of corpses and rivers of blood. The initial confrontation was followed closely by the collision of ordinary warriors. Millions of barbarians and demons tore into each other as if they had agreed upon it in advance. Everyone had only one thought in their mind: kill all the enemies and win the final victory. The world had turned into a furnace, with flesh and blood as the coals, and the flames of war burning more and more furiously. The Shaman Yo clan remained unmoved, however, its members all standing quietly just outside their camp, watching the battle in front of them. The 100,000 clansmen were almost unable to contain the impulse to charge in their hearts. Take this to the bottom of the two worlds passage. Taya suddenly came to Xianxia and handed him a mass of 7-colored mud. Xianxia took it and turned to her in surprise. "This is the key to victory," Taya remarked solemnly. "Why is it you?" Xianxia asked. Taya shook her head and did not answer, but urged, "Go!" Xianxia threw all distracting thoughts out of his mind as he did not have time to ask too much. He clenched the 7-colored mud in one hand, raised the myriad sword in the other, and bellowed in a deep voice, "Kill!" As the command fell, the 100,000 warriors of the Shaman Yo clan roared, their exhilaration apparent on their faces. They had waited for too long and watched many of their clansmen get slaughtered by the demon race, so their hearts had long been eager to charge forward. Even death was better than standing in place as mere observers. Xianxia's order came just in time, or it could be said that Taya's message came at the opportune moment. Right now, The morale of the 100,000 warriors of the Shaman Yo clan had reached its peak. Yang Kai charged at the head of his army on his demon beast, while thousands of troops in the cavalry led by Ahu followed closely behind. Amidst the army, hundreds of shamans of various realms chanted their incantations. They started with blessing the army with light body spell so that everyone could keep up with Yang Kai and the cavalry, and then began casting all kinds of auxiliary shamanic spells. All of a sudden, colorful lights flickered. The myriad sword was still lifted high, and the dazzling sword light surged forth, as if Yang Kai was waving a grand banner, guiding the direction of the Shaman Yo clan. As he charged, Yang Kai was thinking about the seven-colored mud in his hand, wondering what it was. Taya was undoubtedly the messenger mentioned by Shaman Saint Su, but Yang Kai had no idea why it was her. However, it was meaningless to think about this at the moment. Right now, he needed to understand how this lump of mud was the key to the war. Yang Kai could not understand what this seven-colored mud was, only that it was a high-grade material. If it existed in the future, it would definitely be an extremely rare precious treasure, something that would cause a reign of terror with its emergence. This was not the important point, though. The important point was that Yang Kai felt a vitality in this seven-colored mud. This vitality was familiar to him, but he could not recall where he had felt it before. This seven-colored mud undoubtedly had the special effect of blocking out divine senses, so even if Yang Kai held it in his hand, he could not probe its interior to examine this life aura. The shaman saints expect the thing in the mud to seal the two worlds' passage. Yang Kai was having doubts. He could not help thinking this was a joke. But Shaman Saint Su's expression a few days ago did not seem to be one made in jest. The arrow was already fitted to the string, and it had to be released. The Shaman Yo clan bore an important responsibility right now, and it was not the time for second-guessing. Yang Kai put aside his doubts and led the army to charge forward. The world suddenly trembled and rumbled as a heaven-destroying and earth-shattering aura rippled. The aura was so powerful and frightening that it sent chills down everyone's spines. The two races that were in the middle of battle were stunned for a moment as they looked around, only to see a seven-colored giant dragon as long as 1,000 meters, swaying and flying out from the rear of the barbarian race and rushing towards the rear of the demon race. Another terrifying aura emerged behind the demon race as a pitch-black light soared up into the sky and towards the seven-colored dragon at an extremely fast speed, almost reaching it in the blink of an eye. The shaman saints and the demon saints had begun their fight. The attacks from both sides collided in the sky over the battlefield, resulting in a startling bang. The seven-colored and black lights began to wrestle, neither side giving way to the other. The sky cracked like another terrifying two worlds passage was about to open. Everyone felt like they lost their balance, as if the ground they stood on had turned into a stormy sea, one with deadly waves that could swallow them whole at any moment. Everyone suddenly felt a sense of insignificance at this moment and panicked. The first exchange between the saints of the two races ended in a draw. The gigantic seven-colored dragon and the black beam vanished together, and 9 figures with profound auras suddenly appeared in midair. The 5 demon saints and the 4 shaman saints stared at each other, and while the demon saints were grinning, the shaman saints looked indifferent. After staring at each other for a short moment, the 9 saints clashed once more. The fight was not as fierce as in the beginning, because they all cared about their people below. However, as they rose higher into the sky, they started to unleash their world-destroying abilities. The 9 saints soon disappeared, carrying out their final battle high above the clouds. No one could see the situation of that battle and could only hear bursts of rumbling noises from the sky, while the occasional, dazzling radiance would make it seem as if a second sun had risen. The bloody war between the two races started again in heated spirits. 100,000 clansmen of the Shaman Yo clan threw themselves into the battlefield that was covered in millions of people. It was like a stone tossed into a lake, causing a small ripple which was quickly dispersed. All their allies seemed to have been given clear instructions. Wherever the Shaman Yo clan passed, fellow ancient barbarians would surround them from all directions, charging out in front of them, and open a path for the 100,000 Shaman Yo clansmen with their own flesh and blood, slaughtering all demons who blocked their way. Overlooking from a high altitude, the Shaman Yo clan mercilessly charged all the way into the battlefield of the two races like an all. They were unstoppable, and their allies continued to support them from all sides to eliminate the demons who tried to stop them, allowing the Shaman Yo clan to pass through quickly and safely. An hour later, besides a few hundred demons who died under Yang Kai's sword, the Shaman Yo clan did not encounter any real battles. This was unimaginable on such a violent and chaotic battlefield. All the credit for this feat, however, belonged to the rapid response of their allies. But even this support was reaching its limit after an hour. Due to the allies' support, the Shaman Yo clan successfully broke through 100 kilometers. But because of such a rapid breakthrough, the line of the armies was stretched too thin. The Shaman Yo clan now had to fight on their own, with fewer and fewer allies around to support them. The Shaman Yo clan almost fell into a situation where they were isolated and had to fight alone. Yang Kai had expected this to happen, though, and came prepared. He had assigned the 10 demon kings to guard the two flanks of the Shaman Yo clan. Fei Li and Moku Tua, who were the most powerful demon kings under his command, were arranged in the rear position. Therefore, even without the support of their allies, the pace of advancement of the Shaman Yo clan was still unstoppable. In fact, the Shaman Yo clan was getting faster. There were demons in all directions, and the 100,000 clansmen of the Shaman Yo clan finally saw the scene they were waiting for. They swung their weapons excitedly while following behind Yang Kai, killing all demons who dared block their way. Mo Kutua, Fei Li, how dare you betray our demon race? You are all disgraces to our proud demon race. Die here now. A roar came from the front as more than 20 demon kings gathered in one place, each of them releasing a powerful aura. Their demon chi converged like an insurmountable high wall, blocking the Shaman Yo clan's path. Yang Kai took out his sword and swung it horizontally, releasing a long, brilliant sword light at the 20 demon kings. All the faces of the demon kings changed as they felt the terrifying power of this blow and quickly scattered away without hesitation. The wall of the demon king that was blocking the way immediately fell apart. And before they could stand firm, an overwhelming shamanic spell struck them. The demon kings were infuriated and immediately launched counterattacks one after another. Followed by a flicker, Yang Kai disappeared from the back of the mount. When he reappeared, he was behind a demon king, slashing down his myriad sword. The demon king, who was on par with a mid-rank shaman king, did not even have time to react before he was split in half by the sword, and his internal organs spilled all over the ground. Yang Kai did not even spare a second glance at this victim before teleporting behind another demon king, chopping off his head with his sword, then sending a palm towards another nearby demon king. Yang Kai launched 3 attacks and killed 3 demon kings like he was swatting flies. This horrified the remaining demon kings. Demon kings were all superior masters. Since when were they killed so easily? No one really knew what happened to allow this foreigner to possess such incredible power. The morale of the demon kings immediately reached the bottom, and if it weren't for the orders of the demon saints, perhaps they would have turned around and fled. Fortunately, the foreigner seemed to have consumed a lot of his energy killing 3 demon kings and showed no intention of slaughtering the rest, instead returning to his mount. Exchanging looks, the remaining demon kings suppressed their fear and surrounded him again. Stop them! Yang Kai bellowed. The faces of Bao Qi and Xianxia, who guarded beside Yang Kai, turned ugly at his command, and they hesitated for a moment. Yang Kai glared at them furiously. Only then did Bao Qi and Xianxia grit their teeth as they flew towards their past companions. Bao Qi and Xianxia couldn't stop more than 10 demon kings. Everyone knew that. The demon kings knew it and Yang Kai knew it. Although they were the first 2 demon kings who took refuge under Yang Kai, their refuge was not of their own free will, so their so-called loyalty was greatly reduced. Yang Kai had never expected them to submit to him sincerely and willingly obey his orders. He only needed to be able to control the lives of these demon kings. They were outnumbered, and their situation was disastrous, but if they violated Yang Kai's order, they would definitely die on the spot. Therefore, Bao Qi and Xianxia only hesitated for a moment before they flew out to intercept the demon kings. Fortunately, these demon kings seemed to be extremely afraid of Yang Kai's strength and intended to let him pass. They did not attack Bao Qi and Xianxia but chased and fought with them to stall for time. Bao Qi and Xianxia were overjoyed and played their strongest cards, flickering left and right to the demon kings who were surrounding them. The 100,000 shaman Nyo clan members continued their push forward. This was an extremely difficult advance, and the further they went, the greater the resistance they encountered. Although the demon kings did not dare to get too close, attacking from afar to disrupt the shaman Nyo clan's pace was easy enough. The clansmen were constantly falling behind like snowflakes falling to the ground that quickly melted away. Even with the support of demon kings like Mo and Fei Li, this situation could not be avoided. Looking up at the Two Worlds passage that was still far away, Yang Kai raised his hand to summon the insect enslavement bracelet and released the soul-devouring insects living inside. The soul-devouring insects had grown greatly during the 2 years of war, and the Shaman Nyo clan had relied on these exotic insects to win a number of brilliant victories. The soul-devouring insects were not very effective in dealing with powerful masters, but they had a great effect on those below the Demon King realm. Large swarms of insects flew out with a loud buzz, and wherever the swarm of insects passed, demons would scream and collapse to the ground. These ancient exotic insects could consume almost anything, including demon chi and souls, for food. The seemingly weak insects were in fact extremely tenacious. Even if the swarm was hit by the sharpest weapon, it would only leave a scratch. As soon as the swarm of insects emerged, the demons all around retreated, which greatly reduced the pressure on the Shaman Nyo clan. The Shaman Nyo clan continued to forge ahead, paying a heavy price for almost every step forward. The 100,000 people gradually reduced to 90,000, 80,000, 50,000. After an hour, when the Shaman Nyo clan finally rushed to the bottom of the Two Worlds passage, Yang Kai turned his head and looked back, only to find just 30,000 of his clansmen remaining from the original 100,000 who followed him here. This was the core of the demon race's territory, with not a single ally in sight. The Shaman Nyo clan was truly in a situation where they were completely isolated and surrounded. Out of the 10 demon kings, only Mo and Fei Li remained. The other 8 were sent out by Yang Kai on the way, and based on Yang Kai's perception, half of those 8 demon kings were dead, while the condition of the remaining half did not look good. Form up! Yang Kai raised his sword and shouted. The 30,000 clansmen immediately created a defensive circle with Yang Kai at its center, establishing a firm guard. The swarm of insects gathered around the perimeter of this formation. These tiny insects had shown their terrifying lethality before, so they served as a strong deterrent towards the demon race. The reduction in numbers in the Shaman Nyo clan had made the formation more compact, and in turn made the defense sturdier. Yang Kai flipped his hand and took out the 7-colored mud. Looking up at the sky, right above him was where the Two Worlds passage was located. Yang Kai could even feel the demon chi flowing in from the rift in the sky that had not remained for several years. The surging demon chi emitted a spine-chilling and violent aura that left everyone feeling extremely uncomfortable. I hope this works, Yang Kai muttered softly before throwing the lump of 7-colored mud in his hand on the ground and staring at it. His action undoubtedly attracted the attention of the surrounding demon kings. Although they did not know what he was doing, these masters instinctively felt anxious. The Shaman Nyo clan obviously had a clear goal, and that goal had something to do with the Two Worlds passage, seeing how they recklessly rushed to it without even worrying about their losses. How could the demon kings just sit back and watch? After a series of orders were issued, the demons that surrounded the Shaman Nyo clan finally launched an attack. The swarm of insects surged forward and engulfed a large number of demons, but it was not enough to stop the mighty current of incoming attacks. The 30,000 clansmen of Shaman Nyo clan stood their ground, with the shamans singing incantations, blessing all of the clansmen with shamanic spells again. A bloody fight was instantly set off. Mo suddenly disappeared. Except for Yang Kai, even the strongest demon kings present would not be able to trace her position. She flashed through the demon lines, killing everyone wherever she appeared. She was an elite assassin of the demon race, a demon king-grade assassin. Besides those who stood on equal footing with her, no one could survive her sneak attack. The demon kings commanding the army outside died one by one under her assassination, leaving the remaining demons in a state of disarray. Fei Li also took action at that moment. The ghost fire that erupted from his skeletal hands was not something ordinary demon kings could handle, and wherever the ghost fire passed, swaths of demons were burned to death. Yang Kai's gaze remained on the pile of seven-colored mud for a moment before he suddenly turned to shout at Taya. "Why isn't it working? Does it need to be buried in the ground?" Taya said that this was the key to victory and was the only chance to seal the two worlds' passage. But Yang Kai realized that the seven-colored mud was not responding at all. Taya remained perfectly calm and reassured. "It will work." When? Yang Kai pressed on. He led his 100,000 shaman Yo clansmen to the very heart of the demon race army, sacrificing 70% of them just to get here. So if this seven-colored mud turned out to be a dud, or if this was all just a plan the shaman saints thought up to attract the demon race's attention, the price paid was simply too great. Without receiving a response from Taya, Yang Kai suppressed the anxiety in his heart and lifted his arms, releasing several enormous moon blades that instantly cut deep gashes into the demon race army. For now, Yang Kai withdrew his attention from the seven-colored mud. He just wanted to slaughter to his heart's content regardless of whether this could actually seal the two worlds' passage or not. He was the leader of the Shaman Yo clan. His target was not the common demon soldiers, but rather the demon kings hidden in the surroundings. Yang Kai began to flicker across the battlefield, and whenever the myriad sword was swung, demons would fall, and no demon king he had his eyes on managed to escape the wrath of his sword. It was as if he was a reaper of death, and the myriad sword was a scythe with which he harvested the souls of his victims. The death of the demon kings escalated the turmoil of the already chaotic demon race army, and the pressure on the Shaman Yo clan reduced sharply. The defense circle even expanded for a while, but only in appearance. Countless demons gathered from all directions. The 30,000 Shaman Yo clansmen couldn't win in this situation. Even if Yang Kai could escape from here with his life, all 30,000 of his clansmen would undoubtedly die before the end of the war. Right at that moment, a strange sound resonated suddenly, just like the resurrection of a heart from ancient times. A vigorous pounding reverberated straight into the chests of anyone who heard it, causing involuntary tightness and a roiling of blood. Countless eyes turned towards the source of the sound. Yang Kai did the same and immediately revealed a look of pleasant surprise, because the lump seven-colored mud that he had thrown on the ground earlier finally responded. A seven-colored radiance burst out with a vague trace of vitality surging within it. This strange scene surprised the clansmen from both races. The brilliance of the seven-colored ray slowly dissipated and was replaced by a soft green light. A small young shoot suddenly sprouted from the ground, one that looked so frail it would break with just a light touch. Yang Kai flickered to the side of the young shoot, feeling a sense of familiarity from the aura it was exuding. "It's working?" Taya spoke softly, staring at the green bud with an unreadable expression. "Are we relying on this?" Yang Kai questioned doubtfully. What could this young shoot do? How was it going to seal the two worlds' passage that stretched all the way up to the sky? Before Yang Kai could even finish his thought, though, the young shoot began to grow rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, it had become a small sapling. Things had not ended yet as the sapling's rate of growth soared. In another breath, it had grown into a 3-meter-tall tree with a tousled canopy, dense branches and leaves, and it showed no signs of slowing down at all. The ground began to crack and was split open with fissures where the tree roots expanded underground. Yang Kai could not help but retreat, his gaze moving higher and higher as he withdrew further and further. 3 meters, 10 meters, 30 meters, 60 meters, 150 meters. In less than a stick of incense worth of time, the tiny green shoot had grown into a towering tree that reached up to the sky, its lush canopy forming a sharp contrast against the dark demon chi around it. Emerald light radiated from this giant tree, forming a layer of protection, shielding the surviving Shaman Yo clan clansmen from the surrounding enemies. The overwhelming demon chi was purified by the emerald radiance and dispersed into the sky. The demons were dumbfounded and their minds went blank. "Senior Qing," Yang Kai gasped involuntarily. He finally understood that the giant tree in front of him did not grow out of thin air. It was the evergreen divine tree. It was the guardian of the Frost and Snow clan. Xianxia felt that the vitality wrapped within the seven-colored mud was familiar right from the start, but he never thought to associate it with Senior Qing due to their huge differences. But when the kilometer-tall tree stood before him, Xianxia instantly recognized it. Senior Qing was the ancient barbarian's measure to seal the two worlds' passage. Senior Qing's growth did not stop there as he continued to grow taller and larger, the green protective curtain continuing to widen. By the looks of it, it seemed that Senior Qing was going to use his own body to directly plug and seal the two worlds' passage, perhaps having heard Xianxia's shout. An old face surfaced on its trunk before him and smiled faintly. "Shaman Yo, we meet again." "Yes, we meet again. But I didn't expect us to meet in this way." Xianxia wiped the blood off his face. The old face replied kindly, "Looks like I was right. You truly grew up quickly, and the future seems to rest in your hands." Xianxia shook his head. Instead of commenting on it, he asked curiously, "Senior, weren't you in Frost and Snow City? Is this your soul clone?" "Soul clone? No, no, no. This is not a soul clone. This is my true body." Xianxia turned solemn, immediately realized something and asked, "Senior, are you planning to sacrifice your life?" Senior Qing burst out in laughter. "The two worlds' passage is too mysterious, and this is the only way to seal it. I have lived long enough to have witnessed two invasions of the demon race. I was incapable of providing any assistance last time, but this time, I want to contribute my strength, for the barbarian race has taken good care of me over all these years. Perhaps there is another way." Xianxia frowned. The face on the trunk shook, as if shaking his head. "I have left Frost and Snow City already. There is no turning back." At this moment, Xianxia understood what he meant. The evergreen divine tree guarded Frost and Snow City for tens of thousands of years, never once leaving its original place. It was not that he did not want to, but he could not because Senior Qing had an innate connection to that piece of land. But this time, in order to seal the two worlds' passage, he left the land that nurtured him for tens of thousands of years, condensed all his essence into the seven-colored mud, and was led by Xianxia to this place. This was an irreversible process, and the second growth that he performed today was equivalent to him burning all his vitality before his death. Xianxia stood in awe and saluted while holding his chest. The barbarian race will witness Senior's sacrifice, and future generations will remember your contribution. Senior Qing laughed. "There's no need to comfort me. I am prepared for this." After a pause, Senior Qing became serious. "Before that, I need your help. Don't worry, Senior. Our Shaman Yo clan will protect this place to the last." "Good." The old face nodded and disappeared. Xianxia turned his head and looked at Taya. "Why don't you say anything?" "Taya, what do you want me to say? Did you know this already?" Taya answered, "Yes." Xianxia looked at her puzzled and tried to read her face, but Taya remained indifferent, as if she and Senior Qing were strangers. Taya was very different from the little girl he first met 2 years ago, her character having changed greatly. Xianxia even doubted whether she was the same Taya as before. But he quickly shook off such thoughts and refocused on the battle. Senior Qing continued to grow rapidly. During his conversation with Xianxia, the gigantic evergreen divine tree had grown from 1 kilometer to 2 kilometers. Looking up, the canopy was now barely visible as it stretched into the sky. Everyone in the battle noticed this unusual situation. The barbarians cheered as many recognized the guardian deity of Frost and Snow City, all of them crying out in excitement. As more ancient barbarians learnt what was happening, their morale was greatly boosted, and all of them seemed to have their fighting spirits rekindled. Although Senior Qing was only the guardian deity of Frost and Snow clan, his reputation resounded throughout all clans of the barbarian race. Although no one had ever seen Senior Qing display his strength, everyone knew that he was a master comparable to a shaman saint. But he was not a barbarian. Therefore, the barbarian race only had 4 shaman saints. Senior Qing could be considered another saint besides the shaman saints. At this moment, Such a powerful ally in this chaotic battle, diving into the very depths of the demon race army, was naturally something worth all the barbarian clansmen feeling exhilarated about. Everyone seemed to be picturing the scene where the demon race was thoroughly defeated. The emergence of Senior Qing had caused a surge of momentum in favor of the barbarian race, giving them the upper hand in the battle. On the contrary, the demons were horror-stricken. They had no idea what this giant tree was, but not knowing only caused more fear, especially when this unforeseen accident appeared in such a massive and majestic form. Furthermore, this tree continued to grow taller by the moment, as if it was trying to pierce the heavens. The emerald light enveloping the periphery of the giant tree also seemed to carry a mysterious purification effect that completely dissolved all the demon qi within its range. Many ignorant demons wanted to rush over to stop the growth of the giant tree, but wound up being killed by the shaman grandmasters of the Shaman Nyo clan who were standing guard nearby. The sudden appearance of the evergreen divine tree threw the demon race into a panic for a while. However, the situation soon stabilized. It seemed that they had been given orders, and the demons began to form rank to quickly siege the evergreen divine tree in an orderly manner. The focus of the battle suddenly shifted to the bottom of the Two Worlds passage. The Shaman Nyo clan immediately came under unimaginable pressure as the demons rushed at them like a surging tidal wave from all directions. These demons seemed to have abandoned all concept of fear, and even the deadly soul-devouring insects could not deter their advance. Under the leadership of Hu, the cavalry of the Shaman Nyo clan circled the giant tree like a fine steel whip. Wherever the cavalry passed, the demons were trampled like dead leaves and swept away. Their weapons started to lose their sharpness, and everyone was covered with thick blood. The 4 living demon kings came back from breaking through the encirclement, all of them looking exhausted and pale. Xianxia hadn't died, but she had lost an arm. Bao Qi was gone, his life aura extinguished in Yang Kai's perception. It was obvious that he was killed by his former companions. Less than 30,000 clansmen, 1 shaman king, 6 demon kings, and 3 shaman grandmasters were left in the Shaman Nyo clan. They were basically a remnant force now, but they still had to face over 10 million demons in battle, along with more than 30 demon kings. The two sides were completely uneven, and the results of this battle would determine the outcome of the war. All the warriors of the Shaman Nyo clan knew their responsibility, and there was no need for Yang Kai to command them. They fought the enemy bravely, putting their lives on the line to kill as many enemies as possible. More than 20,000 demons died at Yang Kai's hands alone, including 6 demon kings. However, in the face of such a large-scale war, no matter how strong an individual was, it all seemed insignificant, unless one had reached the level of a saint. Gradually, the Shaman Nyo clan was beginning to buckle under the siege and suppression of the demon race, their line of defense shrinking again and again. 30,000 people reduced to 20,000, then to 15,000. Ahu's cavalry that originally consisted of several thousand troops now numbered less than 1,000, each of them covered with the blood of their enemies and themselves, and the weapons in their hands having been changed several times after breaking. Yang Kai constantly took out spirit pills and gave them to the shamans of the Shaman Nyo clan. Even the 6 demon kings had gotten many from him. They could only persist until now by relying on these pills. The crown of the evergreen divine tree already passed through the clouds and could no longer be seen, and as long as Senior Qing was given enough time, he would surely completely fill the Two Worlds passage. Time, the key to this battle now was time. The demon race obviously would not give the Shaman Nyo clan this opportunity. More and more furious attacks were launched, and although the Shaman Nyo clan fought hard, it was still not enough to resist the relentless assault. There was nothing the Shaman Nyo clan could do with such a disparity in numbers. A loud noise suddenly erupted, and as Yang Kai looked around, he saw that the Shaman Nyo clansmen at a certain section of the front had taken serious casualties. A gap was finally opened in the precarious defense line by the demon race, allowing the enemy to flood in from that gap and slaughter wildly. Yang Kai teleported over and unleashed the light of his myriad sword, sealing the gap with his strength, creating a chance for the surrounding clansmen to rally and reform the line. But the next moment, another gap was broken through at a different point. Yang Kai shouted, and Fei Li rushed over at once. blocking the advance of the demon race with his pitch-black skeleton that burned in a green flame. The third gap appeared. The defense line of the Shaman Yo clan was like a dilapidated boat in a rough sea, leaking everywhere on a stormy night. Countless demons broke through the lines, some of them launching attacks at the Shaman Yo clan, while others rushed towards the evergreen divine tree. Some of these demons gathered under the root of the tree and swung their weapons furiously at it, as if they were attempting to chop down Senior Qing. However, the majority jumped onto the tree and began using their fists to try to destroy him. Yang Kai glared at them angrily and wished that he could split himself into a million clones. At this critical moment, a riot rose outside the periphery. The ground trembled and the clashes of the weapons could be heard mixed with miserable screams. A group of disheveled barbarians suddenly appeared in Yang Kai's vision. The leader was a shaman king who looked familiar to Yang Kai. He seemed to be a shaman king of the Frost and Snow clan. Over the past 2 years, Yang Kai had many dealings with other shaman kings, and even though he had no deep relationships with them, he had at least met these top figures several times. He could not be wrong. This shaman king was definitely from the Frost and Snow clan. With an ice dragon tattoo on his hand, the shaman king charged into the battlefield, greatly relieving the pressure on the Shaman Yo clan as he roared, "Kill!" The clansmen of the Frost and Snow clan shouted in response, and the morale of the Shaman Yo clan was boosted once again. Cooperating with these reinforcements from the inside, allies were soon welcomed into the circle of defense. Not many from the Frost and Snow clan had arrived, only 5,000 in total. They had certainly paid a heavy price to reach this place. The Shaman Yo clan could rush all the way here due to the strong combat power of the 10 Demon Kings and Yang Kai, while the Frost and Snow clan obviously did not have the support of so many masters. Perhaps there may have been 1 to 200,000 of them when they set out, but only 5,000 clansmen remained when they arrived here. This clan had paid an unimaginable price just to arrive in front of the evergreen divine tree. The Shaman King greeted Yang Kai with a nod and remarked, "Now it is our turn to protect the divine tree." The evergreen divine tree had protected the Frost and Snow clan for tens of thousands of years, shielding Frost and Snow City from both natural and human-caused disasters, allowing the Frost and Snow clan to grow and survive in peace. On this day, which was tens of thousands of years after it was founded, the Frost and Snow clan was going to repay its debt of gratitude, using their own bodies as a wall to guard the evergreen divine tree against any harm and damage. "You're just in time," Yang Kai grinned. The Shaman King nodded lightly before he waved his hand, and the 5,000 people behind him immediately spread out. The strong warriors joined the defensive formation, while 1,000 people remained behind. Yang Kai swept his eyes across these 1,000 people and was dumbstruck, showing a look of disbelief, because he found that the 1,000 people were all shamans. 1,000 shamans from the Frost and Snow clans spread out, 1/3 of them circling around the roots of the evergreen divine tree, sitting cross-legged while the other 2/3 jumped onto his trunk and disappeared into the tree caves. The only remaining Frost and Snow clan Shaman King nodded at Yang Kai. "Buy us some time." When the words fell, he flew up and rushed into a tree cave. The evergreen divine tree had guarded the Frost and Snow clan for tens of thousands of years. They had supported each other and helped each other for millennia. So in this world, the ones who were most intimate with the evergreen divine tree and were most able to mobilize Senior Qing's strength were undoubtedly the Frost and Snow clan. At this moment, all of Senior Qing's energy was being channeled into growth. If he wanted to reach the sky and seal the two worlds' passage as quickly as possible, he could spare no attention to deal with the surrounding demons. But no matter what, he was a master comparable to a shaman saint, so the shamans of the Frost and Snow clan could inspire some of his innate power to defend against the attacking demons. However, this was the Frost and Snow clan's forbidden technique, and the cost of using it was extremely high. Yang Kai had acquired Senior Qing's inheritance and completely understood the details of this forbidden technique. Therefore, he instantly knew their plan when he saw what the Frost and Snow clan shamans did. Turning around with a solemn expression, he roared to inspire the remaining Shaman Yo clan and the Frost and Snow clan warriors to fight on. The attacks of the demon race were getting increasingly aggressive, but with the help of the mysterious soul-devouring insects, the Shaman Yo clan somehow managed to hold out, resisting wave after wave of impact, paying a great price for every breath of time they stood their ground. All of the shamans' faces were extremely pale, their legs close to buckling. This was a clear sign of overexertion of shaman strength, but they still grit their teeth and sang their incantations, exerting what little shaman strength remained in their bodies, casting shamanic spells of various strengths at the dense mass of demons. Xianxia held nothing back either, sending streams of moon blades in all directions, killing hundreds of demons with every move he made. The gigantic evergreen divine tree suddenly swayed, and then the swaying became fierce. Green leaves fell from the sky as a number of branches and leaves withered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Shaman Yo underground. The Frost and Snow Clan Shaman King's voice came from somewhere in the trunk. Sand demons were destroying the roots of the evergreen divine tree from below in an attempt to destroy Senior Qing. Xianxia turned around, his gaze fixing on a figure among the crowd, and growled in a low voice, "Ajaku!" The figure who was resisting the demons together with the Shaman Yo clansmen heard Xianxia's summon and immediately left the group. With a twist, he turned into a mass of scattered sand and melted into the ground. Ajaku was also one of the 10 demon kings subdued by Xianxia, and while he was not the strongest nor the weakest, he was the most proficient in earth escape because he was a sand demon. His innate divine ability allowed him to swim through the earth like it was air, and he was one of the 6 demon kings still alive. Currently, the sand demons who were wreaking havoc underground were his kin, so it was best to let him deal with them. As predicted, as soon as Ajaku went underground, muffled grunts sounded out. It seemed like the sand demons were suffering heavy casualties Ajaku's counterattack, averting the crisis of the evergreen divine tree to a great extent. But Xianxia soon noticed that Ajaku had met his match, another demon king from the Sand Demon Clan. 2 demon kings fought underground, and Ajaku quickly fell into a disadvantage. After realizing this, Xianxia immediately took a step back, calmed his breathing, and concentrated his powerful divine sense onto a single point, condensing an incomparably sharp blade of spiritual energy that he then shot into the ground fiercely. Hindered by the thick earth, the power of this soul technique was greatly reduced, but it still created a chance for Ajaku to kill the enemy. Xianxia could sense that Ajaku had successfully dealt with his opponent with his help. When Xianxia looked up again, his face changed, because the Shaman Yo clan's defense line had been broken again, and this time it was worse than before. If before the situation could be compared to a leaking boat, it was now to the point where the ship was breaking apart, at risk of collapse at any moment. The demons howled as they rushed in from all directions like a flood. No matter how hard the clansmen of Shaman Yo clan tried, they could not stop their pace. Only Xianxia stood firm, unaffected by the waves crashing upon him. But it was pointless because he could not defend the entire circle even if he wanted to. "Will you help me?" Xianxia shouted as he held up the mountains and rivers bell. If he could not get an affirmative answer, he would have no choice but to make an indiscriminate attack. The power of mountains and rivers bell was too strong, and he had yet to fully subdue it. Once the power of this ancient exotic artifact was unleashed without reservation, the surviving Shaman Yo clansmen would inevitably be affected, possibly even be killed. Xianxia did not want to stain his hands with the blood of his clansmen, so even if the situation had been critical, he never thought of using the mountains and rivers bell. But this was not a luxury he could afford now. There was no response, and some of the faster demons had almost reached the roots of the evergreen divine tree, lifting their weapons and slashing at the Frost and Snow Clan shamans who were waiting there. The light of mountains and rivers bell flashed, and the mysterious patterns on its surface glowed while exuding an ancient and desolate aura. Right at that moment, the evergreen divine tree swayed abruptly, and suddenly a branch flew down from the canopy. The length of the branch was unknown, but it was as thick as a person's torso, shaking its head and flicking its tail like a dragon that had just awoken from a deep sleep. The branch swept out, and every demon in its path was sent flying without even a chance to resist. Some of them exploded into clouds of blood mist while still midair, while others were critically injured. The huge impact force broke bones and left huge depressions on their chests, forcing mouthfuls of blood from their mouths as they fell to the ground with feeble auras. Clearly, these demons would not live long. Thousands of demons were injured or killed in just a single blow. The demons who broke through the defensive circle were shocked and instinctually retreated a few steps together. Each demon's eyes were fixed on that sweeping branch, their gazes filled with fear and panic. Shwa shwa shwa. More branches descended from the tree crown like long whips controlled by the evergreen divine tree. The whips that danced in a seemingly chaotic way, but in fact were actually making an organized sweep of the surroundings. No whip collided with another and instead complemented one another as they mowed down the enemy. The whips swept around the evergreen divine tree, sending any enemy within a kilometer radius flying. All of the demons that rushed over were swatted away while the guarding clansmen of Shaman Yo clan and Frost and Snow clan remained unscathed. All of the barbarians were shocked by what they saw, and Xianxia also immediately put away the mountains and rivers bell. He knew that the shamans of Frost and Snow clan had begun to control the power of the evergreen divine tree. With such overbearing power, the demons could no longer approach the tree. The evergreen divine tree was a being equivalent to a saint after all, so his power was not something an ordinary demon or even a demon king could resist. Unless, suddenly, a huge palm appeared in the sky, one so massive that it was able to cover the heavens, darkening the field of vision of everyone below. The emergence of the palm caused a drastic change in the situation. The world shook as this palm slammed straight towards the crown of the evergreen divine tree, as though it was trying to bring it down in one blow. The whips that were attacking the demons were obviously aware of the approaching danger and swiftly directed their attention to the palm in the sky. Xianxia too raised his head sharply to observe and flickered away from his position in the next moment. There was a loud bang, and the huge palm slammed down, smashing dozens of long whips that were speeding at it. The sound of muffled grunts rang out from the trunk and branches of the evergreen divine tree, evidence the shamans of the Frost and Snow clan had been hit hard. Blocked by several dozen long whips, the speed of the palm was hindered, but it did not break. At the critical moment, Xianxia's figure suddenly appeared between the palm and the tree crown, a small bell spinning before him which rapidly expanded into a giant object that shrouded the tree crown. Guangdang! An ear-splitting sound rang out as the illusory phantom of the mountains and rivers bell collapsed. Xianxia could not help but spurt out a mouthful of blood as he plummeted to the ground like a meteor. However, the gigantic palm was rebounded by the power of the mountains and rivers bell and finally dispersed. "Oh!" A somewhat surprised voice sounded and was immediately followed by a person abruptly appearing in the air. Looking down at Xianxia, then looking up at the evergreen divine tree, a cynical smile appeared on the corner of the man's face. Xianxia steadied himself in the air and looked up at this man coldly as he bellowed with gritted teeth. "Mo Duo!" His voice was not loud, but it was enough for everyone on the deathly still battlefield to hear. Mo Duo's name brought fear to all the ancient barbarians, while on the contrary, the demons who had been hit miserably yelled animated, their confidence greatly boosted. "What was your name again?" With his hands crossed behind his back, Mo Duo cocked his head to the side as he observed Xianxia, appearing to be deep in thought before he suddenly exclaimed, "Yes, your name is Shaman Yo." Xianxia grinned, his blood-filled mouth making him look quite terrifying. "It's an honor that a demon saint actually remembers my name." Mo Duo chuckled. "I always have deep impressions of people who are special." Xianxia turned his head and glanced at the battlefield farther away, curling his lips as he asked, "Aren't the demon saints supposed to be fighting up there? Why are you so free to be here? Don't you care about the lives of your companions?" "I don't need to worry about their lives. You, on the other hand, should worry about yours." Xianxia cursed silently, berating Saint Su for allowing a demon saint to come here. As long as the 4 shaman saints of the barbarian race could delay the 5 demon saints of the demon race, there would still be hope for the battle here. The Shaman Yo clan successfully escorted the evergreen divine tree to take root at the base of the Two Worlds Passage, and the 1,000 shamans of the Frost and Snow clan also came to support them. As long as there was enough time, the plan could be fully implemented. But Mo Duo's sudden appearance was akin to the arrival of a disaster that could wipe out everyone present. A full-grown adult suddenly interfering in a match between children. Below the Two Worlds Passage, Demon Saint Mo Duo's sudden appearance next to the evergreen divine tree instantly extinguished any glimmer of hope that the barbarian race had. No one could stand against the Demon Saint unless the evergreen divine tree fought him personally. Not even Yang Kai. But how could Senior Qing spare any attention or energy to fight against a Demon Saint now? All his concentration was being used to seal the two worlds' passage, shutting out all other distractions from the external environment. Senior Qing was now burning his life essence and had no way to stop and focus on other tasks. I'm just a shaman king. Does Sir Mo Duo have to bully the weak? Ha ha! Mo Duo laughed softly, revealing a harmless smile. If one did not know his identity, they would think he was an amiable man, completely different from the other vicious demons. You're not weak at all. Yang Kai pursed his lip. But I'm still weaker than you. You have your battle and I have mine. Let's mind our own business and not interfere with each other, shall we? Mo Duo replied with a helpless look. I'm afraid I can't. This big tree of yours is a little strange. If we let it continue to grow, I'm afraid our connection to the demon realm will be completely cut off, so I have to destroy it. Sorry. Yang Kai remained calm while listening to his words, but was secretly overjoyed, because Mo Duo inadvertently disclosed information, confirming that Senior Qing truly had the ability to seal the two worlds' passage. Now what he needed to do was to buy enough time for Senior Qing to finish his work. Yang Kai sighed and continued helplessly. I understand what Sir means. Mo Duo remained smiling, and asked as he nodded, Are you ready to die? After a pause, he pressed on. Actually, you can take refuge under me, then we wouldn't have to fight each other. Yang Kai answered solemnly, Many thanks, sir, this shaman Yo truly appreciates it, but this shaman Yo was born a barbarian and will die a barbarian. I can't take refuge under the demon race. His proud declaration was heard by the people of the shaman Yo clan below, and everyone looked at Yang Kai in awe. Mo Duo shrugged. I have no choice then. All right, enough nonsense, you can die now. He spoke with a calm and relaxed tone, as if a butcher were facing a chicken. When the words fell, he reached out to grab Yang Kai. This move may have seemed casual, but the world principles trembled as Mo Duo extended his hand. Yang Kai inexplicably felt that the surrounding space became viscous, like he had fallen into a quagmire. The more he struggled, the deeper he sank. Demon saints and shaman saints were comparable to the great emperors of modern times. These masters had reached the point where they could communicate with the world itself and had touched upon the threshold of the Grand Tao. Therefore, even the most ordinary of attacks they used contained a profound and overwhelming power. Space principles around Yang Kai fluctuated, and after a short pause, he suddenly disappeared. A soft thud on the ground where he stood before was heard, as if something was broken open. After the sound, everyone could clearly see signs of collapse in the local space. Mo Duo tilted his head and looked over, his eyes twinkling with interest as he mused. Space techniques are indeed amazing. I'm more and more reluctant to kill you. If you could assist the great demon god, it would be far easier for us demons to establish connections to other great worlds. Perhaps the great demon god would even be able to personally descend to these great worlds. If you're reluctant to kill me, then don't. Yang Kai wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and forced a smile. Why don't we just stop all this violence and have a nice civilized discussion instead? Let the others worry about the war. Mo Duo shook his head. My task is to kill you or capture you, so I'm afraid that I can't continue to chit-chat with you. He flicked his fingers as he finished his sentence, and a pitch-black beam of energy suddenly launched towards Yang Kai. Yang Kai countered with a moonblade. The two attacks collided in midair and vanished in an instant. Yang Kai raised his eyebrows. Sir, this is not your full strength. Are you holding back on me? Ha ha. Mo Duo smiled lightly without stopping his hands, his demon chi surging as a huge black blade flew at Yang Kai without warning. At the same time, he declared, This is my full strength now. I'm not holding back. Yang Kai frowned slightly and instinctively did not want to believe it, but he could sense that Mo Duo was not lying. Although the power that he unleashed was quite strong, it did not seem to be strong to a degree that Yang Kai could not handle. Right now, it seemed as if he had the same strength as when he first arrived in this world. When Mo Duo arrived into this world 2 years ago, he had paid a steep price in order to cross the two worlds passage. As a result, his strength was greatly reduced, and that was why Xianxia could escape from him with his teleportation technique. Mo Duo's strength should have been restored to its peak after these past 2 years, but now his performance was not much different from what it was 2 years ago. The only difference was that he did not have the same frail feeling as before. The power of a demon saint should not be like this. Therefore, Xianxia couldn't help being on guard. He teleported again to dodge Mo Duo's attack. But just then, Mo Duo's eyes suddenly flashed, gazing into the endless void. He immediately caught a trace of Xianxia. Space techniques were not all-powerful. Although Xianxia could enter and exit the void freely in order to move great distances in an instant, he would still reveal some traces of his movements to peak-level masters. Mo Duo was exactly this kind of master, and with a wave of his hand, he sent an impact into the void. With a bang, space tore apart and Xianxia's figure appeared with a stagger. At the same time, a large pitch-black net emerged to enclose this region, seemingly wanting to capture Xianxia inside it. Xianxia's face changed as he raised his hands and used his time flies seal with all his strength. Following an explosion, the large pitch-black net halted for a moment, allowing Xianxia to slip away, avoiding capture. When he straightened up again, his back was already drenched in a cold sweat. Mo Duo had launched 2 strikes but failed to produce the desired effect, so he could only sigh helplessly. Looks like 50% of my strength is really not enough. 50%? Xianxia glared at him angrily. Didn't you just say that you were using all your strength? Now you say it's just 50%? Which statement is true? Mo Duo answered indifferently. Both. He raised his hand and waved in a certain direction. Xianxia stiffened in vigilance as he thought that Mo Duo was going to use another divine ability or secret technique. But after Mo Duo waved, he did not notice any sign of attack. Instead, a pitch-black light shot out from that direction and rushed into Mo Duo's body before disappearing. Mo Duo's aura, which was already strong enough to give Xianxia a headache, suddenly soared. A trace of ferocity was added to Mo Duo's usual warm smile, as if the surge of power seemed to affect his mentality, drawing a grin from his lips as he commented, "This is 70%. Xianxia gritted his teeth. "You're a soul clone?" Mo Duo responded, "I am who I am. There is no clone or original. I am also over there." His over there obviously referred to the battlefield of the saints. Only now did Xianxia realize that the shaman saints did not allow Mo Duo to inadvertently escape because Mo Duo was still fighting against the shaman saints on that side while this figure was just a clone of sorts. This soul clone was obviously an emergency means of the demon race, and it had proved to be useful. Without Mo Duo's intervention, the evergreen divine tree could not be disturbed. But Xianxia had to be as careful as walking on thin ice because of Mo Duo's sudden emergence. What made it more difficult for Xianxia was that Mo Duo's strength seemed to be able to freely transfer between his primary body and his soul clone. He could not stop Xianxia's teleportation ability with just 50% of his strength. So Mo Duo had boosted his soul clone's power to 70%. If his strength on one side was increased, his strength on the other side would naturally be reduced. "I know what you're plotting," Mo Duo spoke with a casual tone. "It's nothing more than delaying time with me, so that you can seal the passage that connects the two great worlds. However, you won't have this chance now, because you're no longer a match for me." When he finished his sentence, Mo Duo suddenly appeared in front of Xianxia, raised his hand, and stabbed at his chest. Xianxia's face changed drastically. The residual figure of Mo Duo was still present in his vision, but his attack was already close at hand. In panic, Xianxia instinctively tried to teleport away, but he found that the surrounding space was completely confined, and he could not move at all. The corner of Mo Duo's mouth curved into a cruel smile, and his hand, which was covered in rich demon chi, penetrated through Xianxia's chest. Unexpectedly, though, no blood spurted. There wasn't even a tactile feeling that he was supposed to feel, so Mo Duo frowned. Only then did he realize that Xianxia's body had turned into a dim illusory phantom, and that his hand had directly passed through this phantom without any resistance. Yang Kai revealed a terrified look, as if he was enduring great pain. He leapt back with his faint-looking body, almost vanishing into thin air, and broke free from Mo Duo's control. When his body solidified again, Yang Kai spewed a mouthful of blood. He was badly hurt. He took out a handful of pills and stuffed them directly into his mouth to chew, cold sweat dripping from his head like a waterfall. Is this also a space technique? Mo Duo frowned slightly. The fatal blow he had delivered was actually resolved by the shaman Yo in a way he could not understand, and although the latter still looked injured, it was a far cry from Mo Duo's expected result. This was not what Mo Duo wanted to see. Space techniques aren't limited to just instantaneous movement. Yang Kai swallowed the pills in his mouth and once again struck up a conversation with Mo Duo in order to give himself some time to recover. I call the skill nihility, merging with the void in order to avoid powerful attacks. Mo Duo praised him with his eyes lit up. A good ability. Yang Kai responded, but you're too strong. Although most of your strength simply passed through me, some of it still shook the void and was transmitted to me, almost killing me. I see. Mo Duo was enlightened, then put on a thoughtful look as he continued. It seems like killing you will not be so easy. Yang Kai snickered. Would you like to focus all your power into your soul clone? I wouldn't be able to fight against a full-strength saint. No need. Mo Duo snorted coldly. Using 70% of his strength was his bottom line in dealing with an existence that was only equivalent to a demon king. It would be a disgrace if he was forced to use all of his strength. He had his own dignity and pride to maintain. As he spoke, a dark iron hook suddenly materialized in his hand. The iron hook was filled with a rich and pure demon chi that could awaken the evil deep inside one's heart, and gave off an eerie feeling at first glance. Yang Kai's eyes fixed on the iron hook and his heart clenched slightly. This iron hook was somewhat similar to the demonic warhammer currently owned by the embodiment. Although its form was completely different, it had a similar aura about it. It was a saint artifact. This should be the saint artifact mentioned by Bao Qi and the others. In the demon realm, only demon saints could possess and control such treasures. In other words, this iron hook and the demonic warhammer were of the same grade. Yang Kai's expression turned solemn as he became alert. Mo Duo's sudden summoning of such a demonic saint artifact obviously meant that he was planning to make a big move, and Yang Kai had to deal with it with great vigilance. To Yang Kai's surprise, though, Mo Duo did not immediately attack him with the saint artifact. Instead, he lifted the iron hook and grazed the void in a disorderly way. Once on his left, once on his right, above him, then below him. His actions were extremely casual but also quite aloof and arrogant at the same time. However, this extremely random movement made Yang Kai's face sink, because he suddenly sensed that the surrounding space inexplicably became isolated and sealed, as if this region of the world had been ripped out of the great world by Mo Duo's actions, becoming isolated from the outside. Yang Kai could still see all the scenery outside, but he could no longer teleport at will from this isolated world. Teleportation was an extremely tricky ability to deal with, even for a demon saint, so Mo Duo first had to disable its use, and the measure just now was his way to handicap this ability. After that, Mo Duo turned around. Looking at Yang Kai indifferently, he lifted the iron hook in his hand slightly and pulled space towards himself. The shadow of a huge hook resembling a sharp soul-reaping weapon suddenly appeared and swung down towards where Yang Kai was. Heaven and earth were contorted by the movement of the hook, and an extremely sinister aura permeated the air with a loud crash. Yang Kai backed away in a hurry, his face showing unprecedented solemnity. Without dropping his guard, he waved his arms widely and condensed the local space principles into an enormous moon blade that slashed towards the hook shadow immediately. Yang Kai wasn't done yet, though, as his lips began to murmur and time principles began to flow. His hands quickly intertwined to form the time flies seal, which he then shot out right behind his moon blade. Profound and esoteric space and time principles mixed together in an inexplicable and even more unpredictable manner. A look of surprise appeared on Mo Duo's face as he had an inkling that this situation had undergone a kind of strange, one beyond his comprehension. He had never heard of anyone who cultivated both space and time principles. Since ancient times, there had been 3,000 grand daos of heaven and earth, and there were countless principles that evolved from them. However, whether it was space principles or time principles, both were daos that very few lucky people could ever fathom, and those who could comprehend both essentially did not exist. This was not something one could claim as just luck, and was only attainable with the full blessings of the heavens' grace. Throughout history, such people were true masters of their times. Hong! There was a loud crash as the Moonblade and Timefly's seal collided with the huge hook shadow, which directly dispersed. Violent energy from the collision swept out, and the isolated segment of the world shook as if the apocalypse had come. The aftermath of the impact spread hundreds of kilometers away, and both the barbarian race and the demon race were swayed by the impact, many being thrown out or even directly killed. Even Yang Kai was sent tumbling from the force of this recoil. When he finally stood firm, he looked pale and disheveled, but still shouted, "Mo Duo, I am afraid that 70% of your strength is not enough. Let me see your full strength. Don't cower anymore." He swallowed pills wildly while he spoke, having truthfully been pushed into a tight corner. Mo Duo's usual grace and casualness had long since disappeared. After being mocked by Yang Kai, he finally revealed his anger and turned to glance at the evergreen divine tree. In the short time while he was messing around with Yang Kai, this strange tree had grown another kilometer and showed no signs of stopping. "Let's see how many times you can block it," Mo Duo shouted angrily, and once again threw the hook towards the place where Yang Kai stood. The huge hook shadow reappeared. Yang Kai's face twitched as a stream of curses burst from his lips. However, his movements did not slow down at all. This battle made him deeply aware of the gap between himself and Mo Duo. Even though Mo Duo only used 70% of his strength, he was already an opponent Yang Kai could not hope to defeat. Blocking the first attack was just a fluke, but it would be impossible for Yang Kai to block a second attack or third. "Do you only know this trick? Don't you have something new?" Yang Kai asked sarcastically. Mo Duo sneered. "It does not matter how many tricks I have as long as one works." He could clearly see the advantage he had and was prepared to use his saint artifact to crush Yang Kai. As the hook flew, space collapsed and even the sun, moon, and stars seemed to dim. Yang Kai grunted, and the high-pitched roar of a dragon ripped through him. A golden ray was released, and a huge golden dragon head emerged behind him, its majestic eyes looking down on the world as if everything and everyone was beneath it. The golden divine dragon phantom only appeared for a moment before it shot into Yang Kai's body again and disappeared. Yang Kai's initially sluggish aura suddenly soared to a new high, seemingly much stronger than when he was at his peak earlier. "This is..." Mo Duo was flabbergasted, his gaze frozen behind Yang Kai as if he wanted to get a clearer view, but the illusory phantom had long since disappeared. In a look of disbelief, he exclaimed, "Divine spirit? Why do you have a divine spirit source?" Even in this ancient period, divine spirits were synonymous with power, especially the Dragon Clan, which was an existence that even demon saints could not ignore. There was a Dragon Clan in the demon realm, which consisted of demon dragons, and their masters were comparable to demon saints, each of them possessing heaven-destroying and earth-shattering power. "You're too nosy." When the golden light converged, Yang Kai's figure reappeared. At this moment, he was no longer the seemingly weak human, but instead a 6-meter-tall monster covered in scale armor with short horns growing out of his head and sharp claws for hands. Traces of his features could only vaguely be seen on his scaled face. The hook shadow attacked again, but this time, Yang Kai simply raised his myriad sword high to meet it head-on. After the dragon transformation, Yang Kai's strength had been significantly improved. The seemingly unmatched hook shadow came to a sudden when it met the sword's swing, as if it was hindered by an unbreakable barrier. Yang Kai slumped back, using his utmost to push the sword light of the myriad's sword to clash with the hook shadow, resulting in a series of explosive rumblings. Mo Duo sneered, silently stroking the iron hook in his hand, and aimed it directly at the place where Yang Kai was. In the next moment, Yang Kai's eyes widened and looked as if he had lost his soul as even his resistance against the hook shadow became weak. causing the hook shadow to pounce at him recklessly again. After a breath, Yang Kai suppressed the dissonance in his head and shouted angrily, "A soul attack? Mo Duo, you are indeed a bully. You would stoop this low and still dare call yourself a demon saint." Mo Duo gritted his teeth and became somewhat angry out of shame. "What thing are you to accuse me?" He indeed used a soul attack just now. The iron hook in his hand not only had powerful offensive abilities, but it could also directly pull at the enemy's soul. This silent hook had turned into a chain in the dark, sinking into Yang Kai's soul and tearing into it. That was why Yang Kai fell into a daze for a moment, almost losing consciousness. As long as Mo Duo could reap his soul from his body, Yang Kai would definitely become a walking corpse. The second attack of the huge hook shadow was just a diversion to attract Yang Kai's attention. However, Mo Duo did not expect that this trick he planned out diligently would not produce the desired effect. An existence equivalent to a mere demon king being able to resist 70% of his strength in a head-on confrontation was unbelievable enough. Even though Mo Duo had not made use of all his strength, from the perspective of all bystanders, Yang Kai was already impressive enough. What was so unacceptable to Mo Duo was that his silent soul attack failed to achieve anything more than a minor wound. The young man in front of him was definitely not just an existence comparable to demon kings. Even as a demon saint, Mo Duo had never encountered such a monster before. Yang Kai snorted coldly and ignored him, but was actually still struggling from the aftershock of the soul attack. Although the scene just now was short, it was by far the most dangerous moment in his fight against Mo Duo. If it were not for the 7-colored soul-warming lotus, a supreme soul treasure, his soul would have been pulled out cleanly by Mo Duo, or more likely just torn apart. Although Yang Kai's soul was far more powerful than average, it was not to the extent that it could directly withstand Mo Duo's soul attack. It was the 7-colored soul-warming lotus that pulled his soul back at the critical moment, allowing Yang Kai to react in time to the follow-up strike. His blood boiling at his own weakness, the towering sword light of Yang Kai's myriad sword increased in intensity sharply, suppressing Mo Duo's hook shadow in one fell swoop and directly shattering it while its owner was momentarily distracted. Everything else in the world lost its luster in the dazzling sword light. Mo Duo still seemed to be in a daze, a very unusual condition for a demon saint, mainly because Yang Kai's performance was just too shocking. At that moment, Yang Kai had already rushed in front of him with a ferocious look on his face. A dragon's claw was clenched into a fist and slammed out at Mo Duo. Space collapsed wherever this fist rolled. However, Mo Duo simply raised his head, stared at Yang Kai with a pair of emotionless eyes, and said indifferently, "You have to pay for your recklessness." When the words fell, he raised his fist to meet Yang Kai's. Both the demon race and the barbarian race paid close attention to body tempering, especially a demon saint like Mo Duo. Even if his body was not immortal and indestructible, he must have already cultivated his body to its limit. If Yang Kai fought him with secret techniques or long-range divine abilities, perhaps Mo Duo would need to spend more effort dealing with him, but now that Yang Kai just charged at him and was about to engage in hand-to-hand combat, Mo Duo could not help feeling ridiculous and also maddened at the same time. He felt ridiculous because of the stupidity of his opponent, while feeling enraged because he felt like he was being underestimated. Mo Duo used all his strength in his attack. When the two fists collided, Mo Duo's body shook, while Yang Kai staggered back a few steps. Yang Kai, who used his dragon transformation, still lost to the demon saint with only 70% of his strength in the competition of pure physical strength. The strength of this devil saint was obvious from this alone. The huge recoil rushed into Yang Kai's meridians and physique like a rampaging current, causing him unprecedented pain. Before he could stand firm, Mo Duo already approached him with a counterattack. A fist wrapped with the aura of destruction hit Yang Kai's abdomen heavily, causing the latter's eyes to nearly pop out of their sockets, as the surge of demon chi almost took away his ability to breathe. It was not over yet, though, as Mo Duo sent another punch at Yang Kai's face, sending him spinning in the air and spewing tremendous amounts of blood. If it were not for his dragon transformation that dramatically strengthened his physique, these two punches alone would have been enough to kill Yang Kai. Even so, he still suffered dreadfully from it. Yang Kai felt as though his insides were thrown into a stormy sea, and the demon chi which invaded his body through the attacks made him feel lightheaded as destruction swept through his meridians and physique. Yang Kai fell to the ground helplessly and struggled to get up, but before he could stand firm again, Mo Duo had appeared in front of him and welcomed him with another heavy punch. Yang Kai's seemingly confused face suddenly showed a trace of malevolence, his eyes flashing as the mountains and rivers bell was summoned, directly covering the place where he stood. Mo Duo widened his eyes and wanted to withdraw his fist, but it was too late. Yang Kai's timing in summoning the mountains and rivers bell perfectly matched when Mo Duo had fully exerted his strength. Guangdang. The destructive punch hit the mountains and rivers bell, and the ancient bell let out a visible ripple infused with its desolate aura. The fist that Mo Duo punched the mountains and rivers bell with was instantly mutilated. It was very difficult for him to bear the recoil of his own full blow despite being a demon saint, but that was not what was most important in this situation. What mattered the most was the ringing of the mountain and river's bell. As soon as this sound entered Mo Duo's ears, he had the impression that he was being suppressed, as if countless mountains had been piled onto his back. He found himself unable to stand straight under the pressure. Its chime was sufficient to suppress mountains and rivers. Its emperor aura was sufficient to upturn the universe. Such was the evaluation of the mountains and rivers bell by various masters throughout history. The greatest divine ability of this ancient exotic artifact was to suppress all things in the world. Mo Duo's aura dropped sharply. The mountains and rivers bell suddenly vanished at that moment, and Yang Kai pounced at Mo Duo ferociously, going straight for his chest with his dragon claws that were sharper than the finest blade in the world. In a moment of desperation, Mo Duo roared angrily and tried his best to dispel all kinds of discomfort caused by the mountains and rivers bell through pure demonic chi. He then grabbed at Yang Kai's dragon claw with one hand at lightning speed, obviously attempting to stop his attack. Suddenly, the mountains and rivers bell reappeared again, but instead of covering Yang Kai this time, it turned into the size of a handbell, resting in Yang Kai's other claw. With a flick of his fingers, the strange sound of the mountains and rivers bell reverberated again, and the sound wave condensed into an invisible attack, hitting Mo Duo. Mo Duo's back bent again, and his newly recovered state was instantly ruined. Chi. Yang Kai's sharp claw pierced directly through Mo Duo's chest and out his back, capturing a bloody demon heart that was still beating violently. You? Mo Duo stared at Yang Kai, who was close at hand, and flew into a rage as he roared madly. An unimaginable impact gathered into a visible force that shot from Mo Duo's mouth towards Yang Kai's chest, resulting in the clear crack of bones. Struck by this impact, Yang Kai was sent flying into the sky like a paper kite. Mo Duo staggered to straighten his back as blood spurted wildly out of his chest. A huge hole went straight through his body, exposing his organs and viscera. He looked down with a look of disbelief. Yang Kai got up in the distance, spat the blood out from his mouth, held the demon heart in his palm, and grinned at Mo Duo. I heard that a master like you has more than one demon heart, and as long as the demon heart remains, the demon race will not die. So, how many demon hearts do you have? Mo Duo narrowed his eyes, and an unfathomably cold light flashed across them. As he surged his demon chi, the flesh of his chest wriggled and was soon healed, as if he hadn't been wounded at all. Return it to me, he demanded in a low voice. Although he had more than one demon heart, and losing one did not threaten his life, the destruction of a demon heart would have some impact on his strength. Yang Kai had already shown he had the ability to compete against him in his current state, so losing a demon heart would put Mo Duo at a greater disadvantage. Yang Kai grinned. What did you say? Did I hear it wrongly? Or did you say it wrongly? Did you just ask me to return this thing to you? You heard me right. Give it back. Mo Duo replied coldly. Ha ha. Yang Kai cackled. You're too funny. You and I are locked in a fight to the death, using all our skills and strength to kill one another. But now that I snatched your demon heart, you're actually asking me to give it back to you? I just want to know, are you an idiot? Give it back to me, and I can grant you a painless end. Otherwise, I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. Yang Kai's face suddenly became serious and continued in a deep voice. Your demon heart is in my hand now, yet instead of asking politely, you're threatening me? Yang Kai's face turned into a mocking grin. You're really an idiot. Mo Duo stopped talking and fixed his eyes on the demon heart. In the next moment, Yang Kai's heart jumped as he suddenly felt something was wrong. His face changed drastically and he quickly clenched his hand. With a loud bang, the demon heart exploded, but there was no blood or residual flesh. The demon chi contained in it surged out and turned into black fog, shrouding Yang Kai. This black fog was like a living creature, and without any hesitation, it entered straight into Yang Kai's body by seeping into his pores and the 7 orifices on his face. Yang Kai's expression turned ugly. Although he wanted to stop it, there was nothing he could do. No matter how he surged his power, he could not stop the invasion of the demon chi. Moreover, the explosion of the demon heart earlier was not caused by him but was instead a self-destruct Mo Duo inexplicably used. Mo Duo groaned at the same time when the demon heart exploded and his aura weakened noticeably, as if he had suffered a serious injury, but he still pressed on. I know you have a way to resist the corruption of ordinary demon chi, but you won't be able to resist my demon chi. You will lose yourself and become my slave. I will fulfill my promise and let you taste all the torment this world has to offer other than death. Shaman Yo, kneel down and beg me. Perhaps I will have mercy. As if to confirm his words, Yang Kai showed a dreadfully pained expression. His eyes bulging as if they were going to explode and his entire physique becoming tinted with an abnormal shade of black. Mo Duo stood to the side and observed coldly. From time to time, he would toss a glance at the evergreen divine tree in the distance, as if he was considering when to destroy this annoying tree. The demon chi all disappeared into Yang Kai's body quickly and seemingly melted into his physique. Mo Duo soon lost his patience though and raised his hand to tap on Yang Kai's head. Although it was hard for him to accept that his heart was destroyed by such a weak enemy, and he wanted nothing more than to torture him to vent his anger, he still had more important things to do at this moment. The giant tree had already reached the sky and was not far from sealing the entire 2 worlds passage. If Mo Duo continued to delay, he was afraid that there would be trouble. Mo Duo decided to kill Yang Kai first, then deal with the giant tree. But just as he was about to act, a shocking scene appeared before his eyes. Yang Kai, who looked like he was in incredible pain, suddenly let out a low roar and spat out a stream of rich, pitch-black demon chi from his mouth. Mo Duo was dumbstruck. This demon chi was clearly the demon chi that was contained in his demon heart. It should have invaded the Shaman Yo's body and merged with his flesh and blood, so how did he manage to spit it out again? More and more demon chi was spat out and the seemingly living demon chi rushed about in a flustered motion, as if there was something in Yang Kai's body that frightened it greatly. Mo Duo could hardly believe his eyes and was stunned in place for a moment. After a while, Yang Kai finally finished spitting out all the demon chi, patted his stomach, and remarked with a disgusted look, "What the hell is this? It's not delicious at all. How did you?" Mo Duo wanted to ask clearly, but as soon as he spoke, he knew that his opponent would not answer him. This Shaman Yo definitely kept many secrets, so Mo Duo stopped halfway. Sure enough, Yang Kai did not want to answer him. After spitting out all the demon chi, he raised his hand, and the mountains and rivers bell flew towards Mo Duo, rapidly enlarged and plunged down, as if intending to suppress him in one fell swoop. How could Mo Duo just stand idly by though? He learnt the power of this little bell previously, so he immediately flickered aside as soon as he saw Yang Kai's action. Nevertheless, Yang Kai took another action after observing Mo Duo's move, quickly catching up with the mountains and rivers bell and slapping it. Guangdang! A visible sound wave converged into an attack and, driven by Yang Kai, cut through the air like a sharp blade towards Mo Duo. Mo Duo could not avoid this sudden attack and was struck by the condensed sound wave, stunning him for a moment and causing his face to contort in pain. Given that the mountains and rivers bell could influence and suppress his actions before, it would be harder for Mo Duo, who had just lost a demon heart, to resist its power now. While Mo Duo was dazed, Yang Kai leapt over with a ferocious grin on his face. Mo Duo jumped back instinctively, but Xianxia grabbed his arm with his dragon claw like an iron hoop, and with a surge of power, broke all the bones in this arm. Mo Duo gawked at Xianxia, who was in front of him with wide eyes and gritted teeth as a heavy blow was incoming. The huge force smashed on his face, contorted his facial features, and sent him rolling in the air. The feeling of being suppressed finally disappeared, and Mo Duo hurriedly stabilized his body. But just when he regained his stability, the ring of the strange bell reached his ear again. The suppressive power that had just disappeared shrouded him again, disrupting the circulation of his strength. The slight interference resulted in him taking a direct punch in the chest again. The crisp crack of bones fracturing was heard as Mo Duo's chest caved in, and he was immediately thrown out. The noble demon saint was now no better than a sandbag, being beaten flying, powerless to fight back against a mere shaman king. This was a great humiliation, and the anger in Mo Duo's chest boiled like lava in a volcano, ready to erupt at any moment. Although his opponent's attacks were not fatal, it was intolerable for Mo Duo to be humiliated like this in front of millions of demons. All of this was happening because of the damned bell. Mo Duo was not afraid of the shaman Yo's own strength, but the power of the strange bell was even able to suppress the power of a demon saint, which made him lose the upper hand. One mistake had led to all future failures, and there was no chance for him to regain the initiative in his current situation. Every time the bell rang, Mo Duo's newly gathered aura and power would be suppressed, and then Xianxia would launch a storm of attacks at him. In just a stick of incense worth of time, Xianxia had attacked Mo Duo more than 1,000 times, using enough force each time to kill an ordinary demon king. But such continuous attacks on Mo Duo could only make him stagger back, not deal any kind of serious injury. No matter how badly his chest was sunken or how many broken bones he had, Mo Duo seemed to be able to recover after just a short time. Demon Saint Mo Duo's vitality was incomparably tenacious. Xianxia was panting, as he was physically and mentally exhausted. Although his strength increased greatly after using his dragon transformation, his energy consumption increased proportionally. Moreover, he had to use the mountains and rivers bell in advance every time he attacked, which took a great toll on him. If it were not for his strong foundation, he would have succumbed to death due to exhaustion already. However, he was still being patient, waiting for his chance, a chance to win everything in a single blow. The opportunity soon arrived. Mo Duo went into a rage from this torture, and his face twisted ferociously. Gnashing his teeth, his eyes scarlet, he looked as if he had lost his mind. The mountains and rivers bell tolled again, and the visible sound wave struck towards Mo Duo. But this time, Xianxia did not seem to grasp the timing properly, and by the time the sound wave was unleashed, Mo Duo had already managed to dodge aside. Without the suppression of the mountains and rivers bell, he could finally go all out to deal with Xianxia. Grinning wildly, he pushed his demon chi madly and pounced at Xianxia. Xianxia seemed a little flustered and hurriedly retreated, but still failed to keep distance with Mo Duo. Mo Duo flew over Xianxia's head and sent out a vicious palm strike filled with destructive power. At that moment, Xianxia suddenly lifted his hand and summoned the sealed world bead. Under his control, the sealed world bead instantly disappeared into the void, and a vortex-like channel appeared between him and Mo Duo at the same time. Xianxia's divine sense spread out like a tide, turning into an invisible net that ensnared Mo Duo like catching a giant fish. Xianxia let out a grunt, his feet nailed firmly in place, and surged his spiritual energy to reel in this fish. As long as he could send Mo Duo into the sealed world bead, his life would no longer be his to control. Even though Mo Duo was a genuine demon saint, he would not be Xianxia's opponent in the sealed world bead given that he could only use 70% of his power currently. The key now was to draw Mo Duo into the small sealed world. Mo Duo's face changed slightly as the vortex appeared. He obviously sensed something was wrong and immediately became alarmed. Quickly stopping his actions, he wanted to retreat, but the surrounding space became extremely viscous, as if he had fallen into a quagmire and was unable to break free. This resistance was caused by the overlapping action of Xianxia's spiritual energy and his manipulation of space principles. Mo Duo responded rapidly to the situation though, pouring out his demon Saint Realm's spiritual energy that turned into many sharp awls and began stabbing and slashing about madly. The large net formed by the Xianxia's spiritual energy became full of holes in an instant. Not only that, his soul also suffered heavy damage. Blood flowed out of his 7 orifices, giving him a ghastly look. "It's foolish to compete with me with your spiritual energy." Duo looked like he had the victory in his hand, and revealed a mocking expression on his face. He was not in a hurry to escape this place now because he found that this shaman Yo was trying to trap him with his spiritual energy but ended up getting caught in his own means. The invisible confrontation continued. While the injuries to Yang Kai's soul grew more and more severe, the invisible net having long ago broken. Still, Yang Kai refused to let go. Duo's mocking expression soon turned to one of shock because Yang Kai's endurance far exceeded his imagination. The soul was the source of one's sentience and will, so if the soul took too much damage, one would turn into a brain-dead walking corpse. Duo's attacks were violent and intense, so by now, this shaman Yo in front of him should have degenerated into a mental invalid. However, Duo found that it was not what he had expected. Shaman Yo looked terrible and he was obviously suffering from unbearable pain in his soul, but he had still not lost his mind. Something was protecting his soul. Duo was a genuine demon saint, so although he did not know about the existence of soul-warming lotus specifically, he could still guess the reason behind Yang Kai's resistance after just a short confrontation. It was exactly because of the existence of soul-warming lotus that Yang Kai dared to fight with Duo in this way. Duo was also excited by his guess. He strongly surged his spiritual energy and peered directly into Yang Kai's eyes, penetrating through all the barriers around his knowledge sea to pry into his secrets. A treasure that could protect one's soul from destruction was a treasure worth seeing. At that moment, a strange smile appeared on Yang Kai's pained face. His left eye suddenly shone with golden light, revealing a majestic vertical pupil. Instantaneously, a budding lotus flashed into Duo's knowledge sea. Duo groaned angrily. To his surprise, when he was about to resist the blossoming lotus secret technique, the spiritual energy net that had been destroyed by him suddenly contracted. He almost lost his ability to resist due to this sudden change and was quickly being pulled towards the vortex. Duo was appalled that his body was dragged involuntarily towards the entrance of the sealed world bead, while the blossoming lotus secret technique unfurled in his mind, causing him a splitting headache. It would be an unforgivable humiliation if he let his opponent succeed in this plot. Although Duo did not know where the vortex led to, he knew that since Yang Kai was sparing no effort to send him there, it would certainly not be a favorable place to him. Perhaps he would not be able to come out again after he entered. Enduring the pain in his mind, Duo shouted, "Enough!" His roar caused the world itself to tremble. The pulling force paused for a moment as a pitch-black light flew towards them from the sky where the saint's battlefield was, straight into Duo's body, and disappeared. The initial terrifying aura of Duo soared to a whole new height at that moment. Yang Kai's face changed drastically to one of complete bitterness. He had used all the means at his disposal to drag Duo into the sealed world bead where he would have a decisive advantage, but he did not expect that Duo would summon his soul clone power back to himself at the last moment, causing him to fall short. At this moment, Duo was a complete demon saint, a demon saint at his peak. The stalemate was broken in an instant. Duo, who restored his full strength, did not even need to exert any effort as the mere vibration of his soaring aura alone already scattered Yang Kai's spiritual energy and space principles. Millions of demons and barbarians who were still locked in combat turned to look over to witness an unforgettable scene. A dark shadow manifested in the air, one that began to grow like an inflating balloon. 10 meters, 15 meters, 30 meters, 60 meters. The dark shadow did not stop growing until it reached 300 meters tall. Duo had transformed into a giant monster, one with 2 slightly curved horns on his head that were so sharp they seemed able to pierce through the sky. His feet turned into 2 huge hooves that stamped on the ground, making everything in the world look tiny before him. His body was like a copper-cast building, emitting a metallic luster, and a visible tornado appeared when he gently breathed out from his nostrils. After restoring his full strength, Demon Saint Mo Duo turned into a monster like a centaur. Rich demon chi surrounded his hill-like body, surged like a living being. At the same time, Yang Kai disappeared together with the sealed world bead. The moment Mo Duo restored his strength, Yang Kai hid. Mo Duo quickly swept his house-sized eyes across his surroundings, his gaze penetrating the void to find traces of Yang Kai's escape. Lifting his hand, Mo Duo pulled a hair from his body and held it between his fingers, like he was holding an embroidery needle. Then he threw the hair forward, his action looking extremely random. With a whoosh, the hair pierced the void and disappeared. A dull groan rang out from 10 kilometers away in the next instant as Yang Kai's figure stumbled and fell to the ground. His abdomen was pierced by a dark energy that nailed him in place. The dark energy was obviously transformed from Mo Duo's hair, which possessed an exceptionally mysterious force. Not only could Yang Kai not move his body from where he had been fixed, but it was even difficult for him to focus his mind to think. Dong dong dong. Mo Duo strode forward, seemingly walking very slowly, but was in fact moving with incredible speed. The distance of 10 kilometers took him only 3 breaths of time to cross, and standing in front of Yang Kai, Mo Duo looked down on him from above like he was looking at an ant and sneered, "You should be proud of yourself for forcing me like this." When he first appeared, he only used 50% of his strength to deal with Yang Kai, thinking that was more than enough. In that state, the two fought almost on par, forcing Mo Duo to increase his strength to 70%. Unexpectedly, though, he was outmatched by Yang Kai even in that state. Nevertheless, after restoring himself to his peak, he was finally able to trample over his foe. Heh. Yang Kai smiled, looking positively miserable. Staring up at the mountain-like Mo Duo in front of him, he taunted, "You won? What are you going to do now? Kill me? Then do it quickly, otherwise, I'll be giving you a surprise later." Mo Duo's expression was cold as he lifted a foot and prepared to stomp on Yang Kai. For an enemy who had caused him so much trouble, this method of death was too easy, but Mo Duo had already wasted too much time on Yang Kai and no longer had the luxury of concocting a torture plan for him. A quick death was the best option here. The big hoof crashed into the ground, forming a spider web of cracks and ravines. Mo Duo frowned slightly at that moment and lifted his foot. A huge hoof print was left on the ground, but there were no traces of blood or mangled flesh. He also noticed a trace of space principles. Clearly, Shaman Yo had escaped again, and this time even more secretively. Mo Duo glanced around and could not detect any trace of him immediately. Shaking his huge head, Mo Duo stepped forward towards the direction of the evergreen divine tree. He no longer wanted to waste his attention on that ant-like existence. In addition to the previous heavy injuries, that ant could no longer stop him after being struck by his divine ability. At present, the most important thing was to destroy this giant tree. The huge body as tall as 300 meters walked towards his target rampantly, and all the creatures that stood in his way became paste under his feet. Whether it was the barbarians or the demons, it was all the same for Mo Duo. He did not walk fast at first, but his momentum built as he moved, and his casual stroll soon became a charge as swift as the wind. Dong 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 dong. Just like a war drum, a stomping sound resounded across the battlefield, and everyone's hearts began beating violently. Barbarians and demons retreated promptly wherever Mo Duo passed, none of them daring to block his path, as those who died under his feet were good examples of what would happen if they did. The Shaman Yo clan had less than 8,000 people left at this point, and at this moment, all of them had gathered around the evergreen divine tree, taking advantage of its strength to resist the attacks of the demons. On the other side, more than 800,000 demons were attacking. Without the shelter of the evergreen divine tree, the remainder of the Shaman Yo clan would have been destroyed with such a huge difference in numbers. When they saw Mo Duo rushing towards the evergreen divine tree, desperation crept onto the faces of every barbarian. The 6 demon kings who were still struggling hard to protect the tree were the first to desert their posts. Although Yang Kai had given strict orders to them to protect this place, they still lacked the courage to confront a demon saint, especially an infuriated one. The demon kings fled, but the barbarians could not escape. The evergreen divine tree was their only hope to seal the two worlds' passage, and it was not easy to persist until now, so how could they be willing to just give up halfway like this? The Shaman Yo clan's circle of defense shrank again, and all of them retreated to the roots of the tree. From every part of the tree trunk, a low cadence was chanted as the shamans of the Frost and Snow clan began to display their strength. They had to use the power of evergreen divine tree to withstand demon, Saint Mo duo's impending attack. A layer of emerald green light in the form of a thick light curtain suddenly appeared, shrouding a radius of 1,000 meters. All the demons were impeded by the extremely durable barrier, and even the secret techniques of the demon generals, demon great generals, and demon kings could only produce ripples on it, unable to break through at all. This gave the ancient barbarians a little hope. But this hope quickly turned into panic. In the next moment, Mo duo's 300-meter-tall body slammed hard against the emerald green light curtain. With a loud bang, the light curtain shook violently, and the hearts of every barbarian leapt into their throats. They looked up at the place where Mo duo had crashed into the light curtain, forgetting to breathe as worries were etched on their faces. They were afraid that this light curtain would be broken, and once that happened, no one would be able to stop the demon saint's destructive rampage. Once that happened, the evergreen divine tree would be destroyed here and the last glimmer of hope for the barbarian race would be extinguished. The light curtain held in the end, but its vibrancy obviously dimmed by a substantial amount. The ancient barbarians all breathed a sigh of relief at first, but worry soon returned. The light curtain could withstand Mo duo once, but could it withstand his attack twice? Or thrice? Or even countless times? There would eventually be a moment when Mo duo broke through the barrier and reached the divine tree. Right under their worried and anxious gazes, Mo duo took a few steps back, then tilted his head to look at the emerald green light curtain. Pulling back his fist slightly, he released the mighty punch. Hong! The light curtain oscillated once more, and its glow dimmed again. Without waiting for the light curtain to stabilize, Mo duo's second punch flew out. Hong hong hong! Every time a house-sized fist hit the light curtain, it produced an unparalleled impact that set every barbarian's blood rolling, causing a tightness that made it difficult to breathe, as if Mo duo was not hitting the light curtain, but their own chests. Finally, a crisp sound reached everyone's ears, and all the barbarians' faces changed. A crack could be clearly seen on the light curtain. Mo duo grinned silently, as if proud of his masterpiece, and threw a final punch directly at the place where the crack appeared. Like the shattering of a mirror, the light curtain provided by the evergreen divine tree was destroyed by the demon saint's unrelenting assault and finally collapsed. Without the protection of the light curtain, all of the ancient barbarians were exposed to the demon saint's wrath. No one could stop him. Mo duo could wipe out all of them with just a breath. Mo duo did not pay attention to these ants though. He was a demon saint and had no need to care about the life or death of these weaklings. His goal was only the evergreen divine tree. Taking a big step forward, Mo duo slammed himself directly into the tree. Amidst all the horrified screams of the barbarians, a loud crash echoed from the collision of the 300-meter-tall body of the demon saint onto the divine tree. The evergreen divine tree shook violently, and countless green leaves fell from its canopy, wilting before they even touched the ground. At the same time, as if struck by lightning, the Frost and Snow clan shamans hiding everywhere inside the evergreen divine tree grunted, and more than 10 were killed directly. They had been hiding in the tree trunk, and although they could utilize the power of the evergreen divine tree and also take shelter inside of it, their lives were also closely bound to the life of the evergreen divine tree. This was the secret technique developed by the Frost and Snow clan after coexisting with evergreen divine tree for tens of thousands of years. The impact of Mo duo's slam was distributed to all parts of the tree, so the shamans who could not bear the impact naturally died. Mo duo was extremely dissatisfied with this attack, though as anger crept onto his face. It seemed that he was expecting the results of his attack to do more than just knocking down some leaves. Before he could attack a second time, though, the Frost and Snow clan counterattacked. From the top of the tree crown, Numerous soft branches that turned into long whips flew out in a volley towards Mo. Previously, the shaman masters of the Frost and Snow clan relied on this method to help the Shaman Yo clan hold out against the siege of several 100,000 demons, killing and wounding countless enemies in the process. But such an attack was obviously too weak to work against a demon saint. The long whips that seemed to have heaven-destroying and earth-shattering power did not have any effect on him other than to rouse Mo's ferocity. Mo extended his hands and grabbed a bunch of the branch whips, yanked on them fiercely, and broke them all cleanly in half. After breaking several dozen of these assaulting branches, Mo grew a little irritated and decided to ignore these attacks and focus on the tree trunk itself. There was an endless rumbling with every collision as the evergreen divine tree shook more and more wildly. A rain of leaves fell, and more Frost and Snow clan shamans perished. But no matter how hard Mo tried, the evergreen divine tree remained standing, like a grand pillar holding up the heavens. Mo was finally furious and stopped slamming himself against the tree, instead choosing to climb up its trunk with his hands and feet while tearing down branches from the trunk as he ascended. The shaman masters of the Frost and Snow clan were unable to stop his destructive pace, and wherever Mo passed, the evergreen divine tree would be left scarred, with its branches and bark stripped clean. The demons nearby watched Mo's movements before they quickly followed suit, rushing towards the evergreen divine tree. The ones that could fly directly flew, destroying everything that could be destroyed, while those that could not fly climbed the trunk, wreaking havoc on everything in their path. The guardian deity of the Frost and Snow clan, the evergreen divine tree, which had lived for tens of thousands of years, was instantly invaded by the demons, just like countless ants invading a sugar gourd that stood spectacularly and majestically on the ground. There were many limitations to what the shamans of the Frost and Snow clan could do now. Even if they used the power of the evergreen divine tree, they could only sweep away some ordinary demons, providing some assistance to the remainder of the struggling Shaman Yo clan below. To some extent, they had done well enough. Without them, the Shaman Yo clan would have been annihilated, and the evergreen divine tree would not have been able to grow steadily all this while. But this was their limit. Failure was close at hand, and every ancient barbarian was devastated. Yu and Lu, the twins, scanned the battlefield in search of a particular figure. Although they did not think that person was not strong enough to turn the tides of this situation before them, he was still their only hope. But they could not find the one they sought. That figure never appeared after receiving the last heavy blow and was either dead or hiding somewhere. The twins would rather believe that he was indeed dead though, as the thought of him deserting them was simply unbearable. Guang! A loud noise echoed from above at that moment, and with a rustle, as though it was raining bodies, countless upwardly climbing demons fell down from the evergreen divine tree. Its huge trunk suddenly became much cleaner. Yu and Lu looked up at the familiar sound in shock. Although their vision was obscured by the giant tree crown, they knew that the figure they were looking for had returned. Xianxia showed himself in the sky again. His face was as pale as a paper, and he looked like he had almost reached his limits. The mountains and rivers bell had expanded itself into a giant object floating in front of him, constantly sending out an ancient and desolate rhythm. The visible sound waves propagated forth, shaking off countless demons who were clinging to the evergreen divine tree. The weaker demons exploded into blood mist before they could reach the ground, while only the stronger demons had the power to somewhat resist. But even the demon great generals took serious damage, having blood leak from their 7 orifices and becoming dazed and confused. Only the demon kings could withstand this assault with great difficulty, but they still had to retreat to the ground to keep a distance from the mountains and rivers bell. The bell rang more than 10 times, clearing all the demons from the evergreen divine tree. Only Mo remained, his huge body still ascending rapidly. The sound waves from the mountains and river bell hit his flesh, but it could not stop his pace despite causing some visible ripples. "Bastard! Did you come out just to die?" Mo roared, accelerating his pace as his huge eyes stared straight in Xianxia's direction through the layers of leaves. Finally, he overcame all the obstacles and arrived just below the small barbarian. Mo grinned, and he reached out his hand to grab Xianxia. Yang Kai did not evade though, or rather could not evade. Every attack of the demon saint harmonized with the heavens and earth. Although this attack did not seem quick, it was infused with the essence of Mo Duo's lifetime of cultivation and comprehension of the Grand Tao, making it all but impossible to avoid. Grasping Yang Kai in his big hand was like catching an insignificant bug. Mo Duo pulled him towards himself and slightly tightened his grip. The clear sound of cracking reverberated, the sound of bones breaking. Even Yang Kai's body with his dragon transformation secret technique failed to resist the brute force of the demon saint, especially one in his peak condition. However, instead of showing a pained expression, Yang Kai looked calm. Mo Duo noticed his abnormal calmness and felt extremely annoyed by it. If you still have any other moves, make them now. I'd like to see if you can still stop me. Mo Duo snorted coldly, each breath forming a gust of wind from his nostrils. It's true that I still have one more move. Yang Kai smiled faintly at him. Mo Duo was struck speechless. He did not really expect that this little barbarian was still hiding a card up his sleeve even now. But soon, he became indifferent. No matter what move his opponent had yet to reveal, it was impossible to have an effect on him, a demon saint who had restored his peak strength. Only if Yang Kai could obtain strength on par with his own would it make a difference now. Mo Duo said no more, and the force of his grip increased sharply, preparing to crush this insolent barbarian to death. The sounds of bones breaking grew more intense, but Yang Kai seemed to feel no pain. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand and wiped his thumb across his forehead, whispering with an incredibly solemn expression, "Demon transformation? Acha!" A crisp sound was heard, as if something had just been broken. Mo Duo instinctively felt a sense of dread, which made him very uncomfortable, like something beyond his imagination was about to happen. Demon saints were particularly sensitive to danger, so he firmly believed in his bout of intuition. He rapidly increased the force of his hand, but this time, Mo Duo's face changed greatly. His already huge eyes suddenly widened even more as if he saw something unbelievable. Inexplicably, there was an unparalleled resistance to his grip. This resistance made Mo Duo feel that it came from the same source as his demon chi, but it seemed to be much more ancient, leaving him flabbergasted. Dark energy suddenly burst from his fingers like paste before gradually condensing back in and exuding a shocking aura. The right eye of the little barbarian in his hand suddenly turned pitch black, like a bottomless abyss that could devour everything in the world. Mo Duo fell into a trance for a moment as he stared into the pitch-black eye, his very soul trembling from restlessness. In the next moment, his face changed drastically and he shouted, "How can you have the aura of the ancient demons?" He finally understood what this aura pulsing from this small barbarian was. It was clearly the exceedingly pure ancient demon aura. The ancient demons were existences far older than him, the ancestors of the demon race and the progenitors of the entire demon realm. It was these ancient demons who founded the demon realm and opened up a space for the survival of all demons. After thousands of years of reproduction, only then did the current demon race come into existence. The ancient demons had not perished though, and even now, there were some ancient demons still living in the demon realm. Each of the ancient demons was an extremely powerful existence, masters that even the demon saints would have to show deference to. However, although the ancient demons were powerful, they had incredibly low sentience. They were like a group of uncivilized beasts that could only depend on natural instincts. Even the great demon god could not get them to heed. In the demon realm, the number of surviving ancient demons could be counted on one hand, so not to mention the ordinary demons, even the demon saints may not see a living ancient demon in their entire lifetime. They all lived in the harshest, most secluded environments, rarely showing their faces. Mo Duo was lucky to have seen an ancient demon once before. At that time, he accidentally broke into the place an ancient demon lived, and as a result, he was treated as an invader and was chased for several 100,000 kilometers. He almost did not survive that experience. Therefore, he still remembered the aura of the ancient demons clearly. How could he not be shocked to suddenly see the demon chi of an ancient demon in this foreign world? Nevertheless, he finally understood why the demon chi from his demon heart did not work on this barbarian. because he had ancient demon qi in his body that could naturally resist the erosion of his demon qi. But the question was how? How could the ancient demon qi be found in a foreigner? Yang Kai did not answer, and it was unknown whether he did not want to answer or he did not hear the question. At this moment, he only felt that his soul was in turmoil. After releasing the gold and silver seal in his dantian, he immediately felt a power that exceeded his imagination flooding his body vigorously. Thanks to the blessing of this power, Yang Kai could not help feeling a sense of omnipotence, as if he could grasp the moon and pluck the stars from the sky just by raising his hand. While gaining great power, all kinds of evils hidden in his heart were also awakened and magnified, causing Yang Kai to gradually lose his consciousness and sense of reason. His intact left eye quivered violently, rolling rapidly up and down, left and right as if it was out of control, all while his dark right eye remained like an unmoving void, a sharp contrast to his active left eye. It was an especially strange and unnerving sight. An inexplicably dark aura rose in his knowledge sea, one that seemed to have a strong corrosive aura. Everything it passed by turned dim, and the clouds which held Yang Kai's memories were dyed black, losing their once colorful light. Yang Kai swiftly hid his soul avatar inside the seven-colored soul-warming Lotus Island, trying his best to maintain his last trace of consciousness with the help of this supreme treasure. This was not his first time undergoing the demon transformation, but this time was a little different than before. He found that the power he gained was stronger, as if he had gradually adapted to the unsealing of demon qi in his body and could unleash its power to a greater extent, but correspondingly, he had to pay a bigger price for it. This was his last resort, one he did not dare to use without first exhausting all other options, because every time he used the demon transformation, he would risk losing his mind and becoming a demon who would no longer recognize friend or family. But in the face of the overwhelming force of a demon saint, Yang Kai had no choice. It turned out that his 6-meter-tall body had grown taller again after the demon transformation. The growth forced open Mo Duo's palm, and Yang Kai continued growing until he was 10 meters tall, the short horns on his head also growing longer. Then, a certain phenomenon left Yang Kai pleasantly surprised. It seemed that the dragon transformation secret technique had some slight restraining effect on his demon transformation. Although his knowledge sea was in chaos now, he could still maintain his consciousness. This was not only the credit of the seven-colored soul-warming lotus, but rather a joint effect of it and his dragon transformation. Yang Kai did not understand how this happened, but he guessed that it was related to his golden divine dragon source. His dragon transformation was a secret technique that drew out the latent power of his golden divine dragon source. And so far, Yang Kai had probably only managed to tap less than a single % of this source strength. If he could fully utilize the golden divine dragon source, perhaps he could really transform into a true dragon and swim through the universe freely as an overlord, instead of only becoming a 10-meter-tall half-dragon hybrid like his current situation. The golden divine dragon source strength was incredibly overbearing and tyrannical, while the ancient demon qi was extremely corrosive. The two were clearly opposites in nature, but now that they coexisted in Yang Kai's body and were unleashed at the same time, they actually ended up mutually reinforcing and restraining one another. Yang Kai thirsted for power, and the ancient demon qi could provide what he wanted, which manifested through his demon transformation, but he did not want to lose his mind in the process. So his dragon transformation and seven-colored soul-warming lotus protected his last trace of sentience in his knowledge sea. Excruciating pain filled every inch of Yang Kai's body, as if he was broken into a million pieces and then was smashed back together. This was not only the reformation of his flesh and bones, but also his organs and viscera. Such pain would be unbearable to anyone. But Yang Kai, who actually remained sober and conscious the whole time, felt pain that was 10 to 20 times stronger than usual, far exceeding his tolerance limit. He screamed to the sky, his body trembling violently, as his left eye flickered even more wildly. Mo Duo's face changed even more drastically as he found that no matter how hard he tried, he could not close the grip of his hand again to crush this previously insignificant bug. This foreigner suddenly gained enough strength to compete with him. Mo Duo could not accept such an outcome. He nailed his feet firmly in place to stabilize himself, then stretched out his other hand to crush Xianxia's head with a maddened face. Xianxia's screams suddenly stopped at that moment, while the cracking sounds from his body came to a stop. At this moment, he had been completely wrapped in a mass of black qi and his figure could no longer be seen clearly. But the strangest thing was that the darkness in his right eye was still clear and prominent, an almost incomprehensible phenomenon. The ancient demon's eye. Mo Duo finally identified the particularity of this eye with utter shock. The ancient demons in the demon realm came in different forms and sizes, but all of them possessed unrivaled strength. Mo Duo was aware of a certain one-eyed ancient demon, who was as huge as a mountain and could unleash an incredible divine ability. He could not help recalling all kinds of memories about the ancient demons when he saw the abnormality in Xianxia's right eye. His heart jumped and he secretly prayed that his guess was wrong, because if it was true, this foreigner might really be able to compete with him. Black Eye Purgatory, Infinite Darkness. Mo Duo's heart sank at the words that came from the foreigner's mouth. At the same time, the whole world instantly turned black. The clouds above his head disappeared. The surrounding colorful scenery vanished in darkness. A huge eye hovered high in the dark sky, and it was the only thing that could be seen clearly in this void. But rather than being seen, this black eye was felt. In this extremely dark environment, every living being could clearly feel the presence of the huge eye, like a dark moon hanging high in the sky, overlooking all things in the world. All the demons involuntarily stopped their actions and looked up in the direction of the eye. Panic, followed by awe and worship, filled their faces, including the faces of the demon kings. They suddenly became stupefied, forgetting what they were doing, and displaying pious looks at the huge eye like any other ordinary demon. The huge eye hanging in the sky seemed to have turned the world into a cage, and all the demons imprisoned in it had lost themselves. Mo Duo was appalled because the thing that he dreaded the most was really happening. The eye indeed belonged to the ancient demon he knew, and this so-called Black Eye Purgatory was the innate divine ability of that one-eyed ancient demon. Did this foreigner obtain the one black eye of the ancient demon? How did he get it? How could he integrate it into his body? Since they merged, why was he not assimilated by it? All kinds of questions spun in Mo Duo's mind, but he could not find a reasonable explanation. Just then, Xianxia's attack arrived. The huge eye hanging in the sky suddenly blinked, and a dark light was fired from above, striking Mo Duo's head directly, catching him off guard. Mo Duo's expression was blank. Even though he was a demon saint, he could not help having hallucinations after being hit by such an attack. It was as if he had returned to his bedroom in the demon realm, enjoying a comfortable life, away from all the disputes and killings. Such a life calmed his bloodlust and dulled his fighting spirit. The grip of his big hand loosened a little, and Xianxia took the opportunity to jump out of it. However, Mo Duo was a demon saint in the end. Although he was affected by the black eye, it only took a moment for him to dispel this illusion, and without hesitation, he sent a deadly palm at Xianxia. Xianxia reached out his hand to the emptiness and summoned a war hammer into his grasp. He ignored the attack from Mo Duo, raised the war hammer, and swung it down hard on his enemy's head. With a loud bang, the two landed their attacks on each other at the same time. Xianxia's 10-meter-tall body was slapped away by Mo Duo like a rag sack, while Mo Duo's forehead bled from the heavy slam of the demonic war hammer. The huge force penetrated into his head and through his body, crumbling his climbing posture. Mo Duo's gigantic body fell downwards like a meteorite towards the ground. The demons on the ground who had lost themselves in blind worship to the black eye in the sky were crushed beneath Mo Duo's body, resulting in large casualties. Mo Duo stood up, shaking his head. The blood on his forehead blurred his vision, but his expression became ferocious. He closed his eyes to resist the coercive power of the black eye in the sky and searched for Xianxia in the dark. Xianxia did not even try to hide, though. His nature had changed drastically after the demon transformation, and even though his dragon transformation and 7-colored soul-warming lotus were protecting his soul, the release of the ancient demon chi and the use of this innate divine ability still caused a great impact on him. His desire to kill was magnified many times over, and he now only had one goal: to slaughter the 300-meter-tall demon saint. To achieve this goal, he was willing to pay any price. After being slapped away by Mo Duo, Yang Kai quickly stabilized his body and rushed towards his foe with the demonic warhammer held up high. He subconsciously used his space principles and appeared directly in front of Mo Duo. Mo Duo was naturally able to react to such an obvious attack and raised his fist to punch forward. The demonic warhammer collided with the gigantic fist and a violent explosion spread out, shattering the local space and instantly killing all the nearby demons. Mo Duo's fist bones cracked, while Yang Kai rebounded backwards, spewing blood, looking utterly helpless. However, he did not seem to have any perception of pain, and after stabilizing his stance, he pounced at Mo Duo again. For a moment, the two clashed violently with each other, exchanging head-on attacks in the intense battle. Mo Duo's gigantic body had the upper hand at this moment, and although Yang Kai could cause him some injuries each time, these injuries did not have much impact on him, for he had the excellent physical qualities of a demon saint. On the contrary, Yang Kai was exposed to Mo Duo's storm of counterattacks each time they clashed, sending him flying out again and again. But at this moment, Yang Kai was like an immortal cockroach. Even if he fell into a great disadvantage, he fought on against Mo Duo, refusing to give in as he maintained the Black Eye Purgatory. The fallout of their battle brought bad luck to the demons. Up to 1 million demons had gathered below the evergreen divine tree, and Yang Kai had enveloped all of them when he used his Black Eye Purgatory. In the face of the ancient demon's black eye, all other demons fell into trances and kept worshipping without knowing to retreat or dodge all the incoming disasters. Many collapsed from the aftermath of the battle, and in just a stick worth of incense, half of the 1 million demons were either critically injured or killed. The ground flooded with blood and corpses piled up like mountains, making for a gruesome scene. Mo Duo was already maddened as he watched the giant tree grow continuously but was unable to stop it. He had never been this furious before. If possible, he did not want to bother with Yang Kai as he had only one goal, which was to destroy the evergreen divine tree and stop it from sealing the two worlds' passage. Before Yang Kai used his demon transformation, Mo Duo never thought that this task would give him any difficulty. The giant tree had barely any offensive power and could only grow, so Mo Duo assumed he could destroy it easily. However, after Yang Kai's demon transformation, he found that this was now almost an impossible task. Only if Mo Duo could kill this foreigner named Shaman Yo first would he be free to destroy the strange tree. But if he could do that, he would have done it long ago. Why wait until now? Exchanging another 10 moves, Mo Duo gained various sized wounds on his body before managing to swat Yang Kai away and take an opportunity to look up, his face darkening in the next instant. Because he found that, after such a long delay, the giant tree was just about to reach the top of the two worlds passage, blocking it completely. According to the growth rate of the giant tree, it would probably be able to successfully seal the passage as long as it was given another half a stick worth of incense. Mo Duo roared, ignored Yang Kai's interference, and took a big step towards the evergreen divine tree, leaping over 1,000 meters through the air as he crashed towards it. Mo Duo's giant body was unimaginably agile and flexible, so with this one leap, he managed to firmly grasp the trunk and scramble up it again. Before he could advance much though, Yang Kai appeared on top of him like a ghost. He furiously smashed Mo Duo's head with the demonic war hammer that was enveloped in rich ancient demon chi and permeated a world-destroying aura. Mo Duo's face changed slightly as he raised his hand to block this blow. The hammer struck and broke bone, causing Mo Duo's gigantic body to stagger for a moment and almost fall. But he refused to let go as he put his all into maintaining his own stability. Yang Kai was relentless though as he smashed down with the hammer for the second time, followed by a third time, then a fourth time. Hong 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 hong. Mo Duo was beaten like a sandbag, completely losing all dignity as a demon saint. The arm blocking his head had long been deformed, the bones inside shattered, leaving only a limp mass of bloodied flesh. He finally could not endure any more and was smashed down from the tree by Yang Kai. During the fall, however, Mo Duo grinned, because in the sky, another Mo Duo appeared out of nowhere. Although he was not 300 meters tall, he was still several dozens of meters tall. It was obviously his soul clone, No one knew when Mo Duo separated a soul clone, and even Yang Kai was unaware of it until now. After using his demon transformation, Yang Kai's senses and awareness were greatly dulled, because he had only one goal in his mind, making his response to other things extremely weak. Mo Duo took advantage of this and easily sent his soul clone out. At this moment, the soul clone stood in front of the black eye that was hanging in the sky, his hands intertwining into various seals while he chanted incoherent words, his body releasing an exceptionally profound and mysterious aura. By the looks of it, it was obvious that the soul clone had maintained this state for some time and was just about to finish whatever it was trying to do. Mo Duo's soul clone suddenly stopped and raised his arms to palm at the black eye. A spark of radiance suddenly appeared on the black eye, and as if it had a strong infectious power, rapidly spread, soon occupying half of the black eye in a flash. Furthermore, this radiance showed no signs of slowing its advance. Yang Kai finally noticed something was amiss and stopped in midair to turn and look at the black eye. Then he roared and rushed upwards, seemingly wanting to stop the spread of the repugnant radiance. But it was too late. When the radiance covered the black eye, the whole world regained its light again, and the darkness was broken. At that moment, Yang Kai, who had been soaring upwards, let out a shrill scream, as if he was struck by lightning. Copious amounts of blood seeped from his right eye as his whole body fell straight to the ground, smashing a giant pit where it landed.